Good morning. The Prime Minister says he's going to curb judges' power in asylum cases.
The Times is reporting Sir Keir Starmer will overhaul the appeal system in an effort to deport failed asylum seekers faster.
And that move will also aim to prevent the hotel crisis from derailing the government's strategy on immigration.
But as protests gather steam nationwide, is it all too little, too late?
Meanwhile, there's a stark warning for Rachel Reeves. Economists are saying that Britain is going to head towards a 70s-style debt crisis unless she changes her thinking.
And targeting criminals, offenders will be barred from pubs, concerts and sports matches under new sentencing powers unveiled by the government today.
President Trump's immigration crackdown. The US immigrant population has apparently plunged by over 1 million. It comes amid protests, of course, against intensified enforcement actions.
And continued support for Ukraine. Defence Secretary John Healey says British military experts will carry on training Ukrainian soldiers on UK soil until at least the end of 2026.
Good morning. Arsenal underlined their title prowess with a 5-goal demolition of Leeds United at the Emirates. New signing Victor Gyökeres was off the mark with 2 goals. Eberi Eze was presented to his new crowd, and 15-year-old Max Dowman made his debut off the bench.
There was a lot of cloud across the UK yesterday. High pressure still in charge today. Will there be some more sunshine? Find out all the weather details coming up soon.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock. Good morning to you. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So there was Cameron thinking he was going to have a nice lie-in today, and it didn't quite happen for you.
No, it didn't. I must admit, when that 3 o'clock alarm went off, I did question my life choices, but it's lovely to be here with you all.
Surely we're worth getting up for.
Oh, definitely. And we've got some lovely coffee in these GB News branded mugs.
Yeah.
So
that's what you come in for, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Our lovely viewers and listeners as well.
Definitely.
I tell you what, you had quite a day, though, yesterday, didn't you? Because you went to the Arsenal game.
Did.
And you went into the Diamond Club.
I did. I've got a picture of it. I'll show you in a bit.
Is that named after you, Anne?
Well, I think it must have been. No, surely all diamonds are named. But it was not only an amazing win, but there are so many stories to come from it.
Yeah,
First of all, though, any goodie bag for me?
I'm sorry, Anne. I did look around. I asked around. Even your name in your own suite didn't carry enough weight to get you a goodie bag. If you wanted a bit of chicken pie, you could have had that. But I thought it might have gone off today.
Yeah.
There are a few other food choices.
Is that what they serve? Chicken pie?
No, they serve chicken pie. Lots of different options.
Champagne and caviar.
There's champagne if you want it. You can have what you want.
Yes.
There's a lovely lady called Karen who welcomes you, and she just makes everyone feel so welcome. Because the thing is, I've been in these...
Oh, sorry, just to explain to everybody, this isn't there for everybody who goes to the match. It was because you were in the director's box.
Yeah, with Frank Warren, the boxing promoter. He invited me into his exec box. So but I've been in this situation before. You often go in there, and or any box or any sort of arrangement.
VIP arrangement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't know everybody in there. So it depends on the host to make everyone welcome, to marry everyone up and introduce everybody. And once I'm in there, I made a chat, got some chat going. It wasn't too bad.
And kind of unlimited food and drink as well. And wasn't there a certain celebrity police officer who was there?
Yes, Adrian Dunbar. I'll get the picture a little bit in a short time.
From
Line of Duty.
Line of Duty.
Yes. Although I initially got it confused with Thin Blue Line.
You didn't say to him, "Oh, I really like you in Thin Blue Line."
No, I didn't. I stopped myself at the end. Thin Blue Line was a Ben Elton comedy of the 90s.
You've always got to check.
Rowan
Atkinson,
I loved that.
But there were stories everywhere. You had Eberi Eze introduced to the crowd, new signing from Crystal Palace this week, passed his medical yesterday morning. And we've got some pictures yesterday. There you are, the Diamond Club. Or there I am at the Diamond Club. And it's interesting, because I went to Luton Town 20 years ago. Nick Owen had his own suite. So that's kind of your equivalent at the Arsenal, isn't it, really?
But Nick's was named after him.
It doesn't look like a very grand door, to be fair.
Doesn't it?
All right, wait till you get inside.
I'm sure it's nice.
If you get invited.
And tell me about this very young player making his debut performance.
15 years old. You know what? He's not actually the youngest. The youngest player was on the pitch yesterday for Arsenal, Ethan Nwaneri. He set the record at 15 years and 100 and something days in September 2022 against Brentford.
Gosh.
But this guy is... who was it? Clive Tildesley, when Wayne Rooney scored that famous goal for Everton at age 16, he said, remember the name.
Gosh.
I said to people around me yesterday, this is one of those days yesterday, we're seeing a 15-year-old We don't want to put too much pressure on him, although I'm doing that exactly now, but he's going to be an outstanding talent, I believe.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Well, more later,
career
of course.
as 15.
Yes. Well,
He's in year 10.
Yeah, I know,
He hasn't done his GCSEs yet, so it'll be next year.
No, he won't. He wouldn't be allowed up late enough to watch the highlights last night either.
We'll watch his
well
space.
done him.
Adrian, you'll be back later for the sports.
We'll remember his name. Now to matters of the day. The Prime Minister is preparing to overhaul the asylum appeal system to crack down on protests.
Yes, the Home Office argues the move will enable the governments to move asylum seekers out of hotels faster. And in other political news, the International Monetary Fund says the Chancellor's handling of the economy risks a return to high inflation and borrowing similar to that of the 1970s.
Yeah, people are predicting a recession as well, which is not good news for anyone. Joining us now, political commentator John Oxley. Yes, there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction to the protests.
Yes.
One wonders whether it's the wise thing to react in this way or whether they were thinking of these moves all along.
I think this change to the asylum is probably something that's been a long time building. The new government inherited this big backlog of asylum claims, and one of the challenges has been finding ways to speed up processing them so that the backlog is cleared and it isn't increasing with the new arrivals. But certainly, I think there's been a lot of public pressure to roll out something like this, and we're starting to see what the government are going to try and do, both to speed things up and seemingly to make it harder for asylum rejections to be reversed on appeal.
Is the horse already bolted on this? Because we have the Conservatives all meeting, all the Conservative councillors around the country thinking, well, this has happened in Epping. Asylum seekers are no longer going to be in the Bell Hotel. Can we launch similar legal challenges around the country? This is only being reported in the Times that they're going to try and speed up this asylum, the process. And that's all going to take time, isn't it? So what happens if all these asylum seekers are kicked out of their hotel? Where are you going to put them? They're still in this country.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we don't know. We don't know how much that is going to factor into other court decisions about the hotels. We don't know whether this is going to be one of those things where it turns out Epping was a special set of circumstances, or whether those decisions are repeated. But yes, part of the problem, the reason the hotels have been used for so long is a lack of other accommodation, be that detention centres, be that private home, all of the places you could put people. But if hotels go off the table, then the government are going to have to find new versions of temporary accommodation. And again, none of those come very quickly and none of them come very cheaply.
And I can't imagine the Prime Minister wanting to crack down in some way on judges' powers. I can't imagine that going down very well within the legal community. There's going to be an awful lot of opposition to that.
There is, and one of the things you're seeing here is these first level of appeal being taken away from judges and put into the hands of sort of civil service assessors, and it's going to be interesting to see.
Gosh, that fills you full of confidence, just that phrase.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the problems with the current system is the initial decisions often being made badly, which is why so many win on appeal. And it's going to be interesting to see how that flows through, because if we just end up with another round of appeals where they then get appealed up to a judicial process and the court looks at them and says, you haven't followed your own rules, you haven't processed this properly, then all it means is an even longer delay and the same number of appeals succeeding in the end.
What I'm struggling to get my head around is the Times is reporting that the new body will give statutory powers to prioritise the cases of asylum seekers being housed in taxpayer-funded accommodation. Well, where else are they going to be housed? Surely the taxpayer paying for all of this accommodation for the asylum seekers.
Presumably, I mean, there will be a very small number of asylum seekers, people who already have family in this country, for example, who might be staying with them. But that's very small in the number of things, because one of the things about being an asylum seeker is you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to sustain yourself privately. So chances are you are staying in, whether it's a a hotel or whether it's some other accommodation, that the taxpayer is footing the bill.
Well, in which case, you're not prioritising anyone, because the vast majority of people are going to be on that list anyway.
Yeah, but this is word salad, isn't it? And we are beginning to get used to official statements from certain departments just using words to just, frankly, confuse us all.
Yes.
Debbie says, good morning, Debbie, she says, what's the use in them speeding things up and still letting them in? Stop letting them in and then deport them. It isn't addressing the basic... It's almost as though the government doesn't get it, get what is annoying people so much and could be a real vote loser for them.
Yes, and that is the fundamental difficulty, and relies on cooperation with the French authorities. It relies with having a deterrent effect. But as your viewer rightly says, as long as these people are arriving, there will be more and more applications. And the reality is at the moment that something like 80% of applications, whether it's at first instance or after appeal, are approved. And so these people are mostly being granted asylum.
So it adds to the attractiveness of Britain to migrants.
I'm not sure that these measures particularly add to the attractiveness, and particularly if we start to see those rejection rates increase and more people being deported.
But we all know that it's a way of massaging the figures to saying we are processing more people than ever by just approving more people than ever, if we're not careful.
If we're not careful. I mean, they are saying that the part of this process is to try and make it harder to appeal. And then, what that means is when the people are approved, they come out of the hotels and, the idea is that they live normally, they start earning their own money. But it is... the big issue is the arrival rate, and that's what we're seeing with the small boats, and that's a problem that this government and the previous government have really struggled to get coming down.
And Nigel Farage suggesting that if his party came to power, Reform UK, that he would have up to 5 mass deportation flights a day, which perhaps sounds appealing to some British voters. Of course, not everybody will have that opinion. But is that realistic in practice?
It seems very unlikely. I mean, first, there is already the legal position protections for people that can be changed, but also you have issues to deal with, like, where are you sending these flights to? Are those countries accepting those flights? Are they going to take them back? And, to fill an asylum flight, a deportation flight, well, you're relying on having the right numbers of people to send to the right countries that are accepting them. A flight of a few hundred people isn't much good if you've only got 2 people to put on it, which is one of the things we've seen in the past.
Processing nightmare, isn't it? Though, and it's Nigel Farage saying it. No matter how supported he is and how many people are growing in support of Reform UK, he can't be ready to implement that the minute he gets into power. If he gets into power,
no,
it's going to take time.
It's a very complicated system to come in and get those deportations moving. For example, Afghanistan, we probably don't even have flights going to Afghanistan, but a lot of our migrants are coming from there. So how do you solve that problem in a way that is practical is very hard to do.
Gosh, and the legal challenges surrounding it will just be
Well, that's what is beginning to really get me, is that the whole process, the whole concern, the whole crisis, if that's a word you want to use, seems to be doing one thing, well, 2 things, confusing all of us, including government, and making human rights lawyers rich. I mean, wherever you turn, there seems to be a human rights lawyer.
Yeah. The unelected and unaccountable lawyers, I think, was quoted in the papers over the last few days.
Are we becoming a nation ruled by their interpretation of law rather than what politicians and people really want?
I think what we are seeing is, we have a very strong legal system in this country, and what we're seeing is, I think, the decision-making of the government is always constrained by the law, and what we're starting to see from this government with the new scheme is attempts to change the law, and we'll see if those and that clarity comes into effect and is more effective than some of the previous systems. But also, the reality is that a lot of these people who are arriving are coming from very difficult circumstances, very dangerous places, and it is always going to be hard to send people back to places where there is grave danger, and both on a practical level and a moral level.
Yes, I mean, we all recognise the need to recognise human rights, and the law should protect those people. It's just that one begins to feel that it's too manipulative, or we're being manipulated, or something. It's just the sheer fact that in every discussion on this subject, the lawyers come into it.
It's tricky. How much power do politicians really have? Anyway, political commentator John Oxley, thank you for joining us. Well, should we see what the United States are doing?
Yes, I know, because it's not just happening here, is it? The immigrant population in the United States has declined, apparently, quite shockingly, by over 1 million people since Donald Trump. And when I say shockingly, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, just eyebrow-raisingly, because it's over 1 million people, and that's since Donald Trump took office in January, despite the fact that it has been growing for the past 50 years.
Yes, and it comes with tough rhetoric from the president, who has declared that immigration is actually a threat to the nation and not one of its strengths.
We're joined now by US political analyst Eric Ham. What do you think? Are you shocked, surprised, or pleased by that figure, that it's gone down allegedly by 1 million?
No, not surprised at all. And what it speaks to is the overall effectiveness that President Trump, and I think many within his party, would say that his policies, his crackdown, and the White House's aggressive approach to immigration is actually working. In fact, we are seeing that even within the United States, when you're talking about 1 million people no longer coming to the United States, we also have people who are now, quote unquote, self-deporting, which means they are actually leaving the country instead of actually allowing immigration officials to actually round them up and send them out of the United States. And so clearly we're seeing not only is it having a massive impact, but even it's impacting things like tourism and those who are attempting to try to come to the United States on student visas or on work visa programs as well.
So, Eric, has President Trump faced a similar situation to the British government has in the UK, with countless legal challenges of the various asylum seekers or migrants, or does he not have that issue, or is he just far better at fighting it?
He's far better at fighting it, and he's actually just like plowing through it. Just to give you an example, there was an instance where we saw a judge who actually directed the administration to actually a plane that was sending illegal immigrants out of the country. They were supposed to actually stop the plane and actually take these people off the plane. But the administration said, oh, too late. Sorry, Judge, the plane is already in the air and there's no way we can turn this plane around. And so clearly what we're seeing here is you have the administration that oftentimes is willing to defy a court order, but even going beyond that, what we're seeing here is this administration is acting first and then acquiescing or actually adhering to court orders afterwards, meaning that they are actually doing what it is they choose to do. And then after they have completed their action, then they're adhering to the law, which means basically you've already gotten people who have been deported from the United States.
I mean, even if you are a person who doesn't support Donald Trump particularly, do you have to acknowledge now, do most Americans acknowledge now, at least that he is a man of action? Action is being taken, and in some cases it appears to be really working.
Well, when you look at the president's approval rating, his actions are certainly working, and he's doing exactly what he said he wanted to do. But he's got the lowest political approval rating of any president, including from within his first term. Right now, Donald Trump is the most unpopular president in the history of American presidents. And of course, one of those strengths initially, of course, was his crackdown on immigration. But now what we're seeing here is people are beginning to sour on the overall aggressiveness and the suspected abuse that we're seeing from many of these immigration officials in terms of their handling of many people.
750,000 immigrant workers have dropped out of the US labour force since January. How much of an effect has that had on the productivity of the United States? In other words, has US citizens picked up the slack?
Absolutely not. Look, there are immigrants here who are, quite frankly, doing jobs that many Americans in this country simply will not do. And already you're beginning to hear, particularly from the farming community, that is growing increasingly concerned and wary of the fact that many of the people who they have hired to do these jobs simply are not showing up. And it's making it that much more difficult for them to find people to do the jobs that many Americans have not been interested in doing. And so we're seeing many jobs, many assignments assignments beginning to actually have a difficulty in finding people to do those jobs. Give an example. Here in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital, the president has instituted this federal takeover of law enforcement. As a result of that, you now have people who are working in daycare facilities not showing up. As a result, now you've got daycare facilities that cannot operate because they don't have the people, because they're afraid of being deported by immigration officials, which is making it difficult for people to actually find people to care for their children while they go to work.
Yeah, it's bound to have that effect at first. I suppose you have to wait and see if things settle. Eric, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning where we are.
Thank you.
Tonight where you are.
Indeed, yeah. There's lots of viewers getting in touch, actually agreeing with Donald Trump. gbnews.com/your say. Somebody who names himself British Patriot saying the UK needs Trump. Peter Banks says, well done, President Donald Trump, protecting America from illegal immigrants. That's exactly what the UK needs. But of course, there will be opposition views to that too.
Certainly, Marmite Trump, somebody called him, and of course he is, isn't he? You either love it or you hate it. Right now, though, apparently the weather is going to be really good and very scorchy today and probably tomorrow. Great time to get away, maybe to the seaside, if you can bear the roads. Here's Greg Dewhurst with the details.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, only mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The winds picking up across the west ahead of weather front slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Still to come, a crackdown on criminals. Should they be banned from bars? We will be hearing more about that next.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. If you've just joined us, it's 6:27, just about. Now, this is an interesting one. Let us know what you think, because it sounds good on one hand. On the other hand, you start to think, how are we generally having our freedoms curbed by this government? It's about criminals who are going to be banned from pubs. This is criminals already. Pubs, concerts, sports matches, for instance. They won't have the freedom to go under new sentencing powers going to be unveiled by the government today.
Yes, and the changes have been made to toughen up community punishments, according to the government, and deter reoffending.
The criminals will also face mandatory drug testing to keep them on the straight and narrow, with anyone who breaks the rules risking being brought back into prison.
Well, we're joined now by the former head of volume crime for the Metropolitan Police, Kevin Hurley. Kevin, good morning to you. Is this a good idea? It sounds a little bit to me like children being grounded for being a bit naughty.
Yeah, it is a good idea, because many of these people are now being released early from prison for the simple reason there is no space for them in prison. So to give some, if you like, bite to their penalties, their sentences, anything that can produce more restriction on has got to be good in terms, it just increases the value of that sanction. I mean, the bottom line is, with most criminals, and I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, is the only thing they're really concerned about is being put in custody. So if they're given another sentence or an addition when they're released from prison early of not being allowed in bars, going to football matches, perhaps in concerts is another issue.
Oh dear, Kevin, I think the line is bad, unfortunately, and now we've completely lost you. Yeah, and it doesn't look as though we're going to get you back. We might try, Kevin, a bit later on in the programme again, but it sounds very, very sensible. Why not?
Yep.
Stop people who are already criminals, who've done something wrong, from going into those public areas, bars, football matches, anything like that. On the other hand, you can see other people arguing that that really is curbing their freedoms. Why let them out of prison if you're just going to... And who monitors it?
Exactly. And as Kevin was saying, the prisons in the England and Wales, at least, are almost at full capacity already. Is this going to be used as an alternative to a custodial prison sentence, or is it off the back of a prison sentence to try and make sure they do not reoffend? We do, of course, have a debate, I think, coming up in the next hour.
So we'll be able to touch on the same subject.
So do stay with us.
Apparently, it was revealed this week that the number of probation officers has increased by 7% in the last 12 months. They're going to need an awful lot more if they're going to do this. They're going to need more probation officers. And then also, what if you run a bar and a guy comes in who you know is a criminal on this sort of licence? Does that then put all of the burden on the bar owner or bar staff to tell him that he is not welcome? And then what happens? In other words, how will it all work?
Yes, and of course you already have the situation where football hooligans, for example, are banned from sports matches. But I think under the government's plans, they're going to be banned from sports matches to start with before they can offend in those areas. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's perhaps Labour being tough on crime and punishments, or maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, where do they go if they can't go to the bar or the football match or whatever? Where do they go then to make trouble? 6:30, time for our daily reflection now.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hello, I'm Mike, a vicar in the Church of England. People often ask me how one becomes a vicar. And for me, it was a pretty long process of meetings and panels and lots of reading at vicar school. But the fundamental question that you and the church have to discern together is, do you have a true vocation to be a priest? It's a wonderful word, that, vocation. The first time I heard it was at school. I met a vocations advisor. I told her that I wanted to play football for England. But I didn't know then what the word meant. Vocation means to call. It harks back to the idea that the gifts and passions that we have been planted there by the God who made us. That we're made, you and I, with a divine purpose that is then called out. This isn't true only for clergy and healthcare professionals and teachers. The Bible teaches that each of us have been created with a divine purpose. For Christians, that purpose fundamentally is to know friendship with God, to be a disciple of Jesus, and to then live out that discipleship for the good of others, yes, often through a career. The true concept of vocation teaches us that life is about much more than how I'll make money in the short time that I'm here. It's about how can I fulfill the purpose for which God made me.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And it's time, of course. I'm joined today by Hollyoaks star Cara Jansen, who found herself in a legal nightmare after her children were unlawfully detained in Sweden by her ex-husband and had to go to the Hague Convention to get them home. It's a very shocking story, international custody battles, legal loopholes, and a warning for any parent in a global relationship. I'm pleased to say that actress Cara Jansen and also your mum is Debbie Arnold, very famous lady, joins us now. So, Chiara, God, this is a story. Start from the beginning.
Oh, it's been a very, very difficult time for everybody, you know. But, yeah, like you said, we found ourselves in a very difficult situation where we were faced with a legal battle trying to get the kids from Sweden back to the UK. From the very beginning, I just thought he was being truthful to me. Of course, you do. You think, I love this person, I trust this person, of course I'm going to absolutely do this. But as it turns out, I think, unfortunately, it was a plan. And that's why we found ourselves in the situation we were in. And it kind of unravelled before my eyes, you know. It was very...
Well, what happened? So as it unravelled, what was the first thing that unravelled?
Well, you sort of found out, because we moved over to Sweden for this trial period on the basis of, you know, all these promises. And it was... Of course, you then kind of put your kids in school there because you're trying it out. And then, you know, you add them to the medical system and they're suddenly ingrained in the system there. And then when it all kind of breaks down, you realise, like, actually, that's a very, very difficult thing to come out of. And it was obviously a premeditated decision, you know, to get everything over in Sweden, because then it's near enough impossible to get out.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
6:35, time for the Great British Giveaway now. You could live mortgage or rent-free for a year and then also have £5 in cash. Or if you don't have rent or mortgage to pay, you could get yourself £15,000 tax-free. Very nice. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's how you do it.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, very good luck. Time for the sports now, and there's a lot of it about. Aidan McGee is here. Ever such a lot of big sports stories today.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we'll go through as many as we can throughout the morning, but I want to start with Arsenal, where I was yesterday. 5-0 against Leeds United. The pressure's on the man, really, because they've signed this Everton guy from Crystal Palace earlier in the week. He scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final for Palace earlier in the year. They stole him from under the noses of their great rivals, Tottenham, so they were absolutely buoyant yesterday when he was presented to the crowd. We saw 2 goals for their new signing, Victor Gyökeres. Now, as I say, one of the reasons the pressure's on is because Arsenal have been missing a striker in the last few years. They finally got one. Someone they believe they can hang their hat on.
Well, you mean like a real star at the front?
Yeah, exactly. Big money. He was Swedish international. He's going to the World Cup next summer. He played at Coventry a couple of years ago. Nobody really fancied him there. He went to Portugal under the current Man United manager. And the United manager was hoping to bring him to Old Trafford this year, but United are not where Arsenal are right now in their development. So he went to Arsenal and he scored 2 goals yesterday, one of them from the spot. And we touched on yesterday, didn't we? Earlier on about Max Dowman, the 15-year-old.
Yes.
He came off the bench. He's a very exciting player. And we can hear from Mikel Arteta now talking about Max Dowman after the 5-0 win over Leeds at the Emirates.
Big compliment to his family as well. I think they raised a kid with a level of maturity, stability and hunger that is very difficult to see, and obviously to the academy, pair all the coaches and everyone that's been involved in that journey, because there is a kid here that has zero hesitation. He's so convinced that he can go at 15 and deliver that, which I never witnessed in my life. And for us, it brings joy, it brings emotion and something else that makes our jobs so great.
So that's Arteta, the Arsenal manager, on Max Dowman. I think we're going to see more of this, I think that when players have been in a system from the age of 9 years old, they're going to develop quicker because these training grounds now are like spaceships. They've got everything a young player could want. As I say, he's not even the youngest player to play for Arsenal. I mean, Ethan Nwaneri, who was on the pitch yesterday, made his debut aged 15 years and 100 and something days against Brentford in September 2022. So as well as players playing longer into their 40s, you're going to see them starting younger as well. And if they're good enough, they're going to play, no question about that.
He's still a teenager, though, isn't he?
Yes.
What happens if he gets injured so early on?
I could see yesterday, just briefly, some of the Leeds players were targeting him slightly. Now,
oh gosh!
No, but that's not. That's in a sporting way.
I know.
You have to do that.
Yeah.
You have to use any advantage. If you're big enough, you're strong enough, you'll
learn from it.
You'll learn from it, exactly. But he won a penalty yesterday, which was crucial, and it was 5-0. Must mention Tottenham as well, because Tottenham was smarting a bit from losing that player to Arsenal, but they recorded a magnificent win yesterday at Tottenham away to Manchester City in the early kick-off. All odds against them. City won 4-0 last week. They look to be title contenders, certainly. So for Tottenham to have had to swallow that pill on Thursday night of losing that player when he was absolutely in their grasp, he'd agreed terms with them, losing them to their great rivals Arsenal, which always stings, to go to Manchester City, eight times champions in the last 10 years, whatever it is, and pull off a result there. fair play to them.
How did Bournemouth do yesterday?
They won 1-0 against Wolves.
Excellent.
At home, and I mean, they lost 4-2 at Liverpool last week, but right back on it yesterday, and they need to beat those teams near the bottom of the league. And also, if you look at Bournemouth, I mean, they've lost a lot of players. Can they recover? These clubs are very adept at finding replacements. OK, 2 or 3 players have gone. We've made money on them. We believe we've got even more in reserves to get them on, to get them in the first team and make them into top players and maybe the stars of tomorrow. That's what they do. That's the business these days, Anne. And if you have one bad year where the players coming through aren't as good, it can affect you for 10 years. It really can. So it's brutal in there. It really is.
And meanwhile, we've got the Women's Rugby World Cup going on.
Yes, we have. So England started on Friday in front of 43,000 people at Sunderland, Cameron, and look, the score was 69-7. My worry was that we'd see some one-sided results and then we see a dilution of the competition. Now, I'm just a bit concerned that Australia won 73-0 yesterday against Samoa. Good crowds, though, yesterday. Well, one thing I like about this, Anne, is that it's getting around the country. So they were in Sunderland on...
Getting around the world.
On Friday. There's 2 matches at Salford yesterday, one at York, one at Exeter. Twickenham for the final, which is in a few weeks' time. We don't even know who's going to be in the final. It's sold out already. So that's outstanding. That really is good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's good. Because, well, the tickets are available. You take that chance.
They don't know who's going to play.
Doesn't matter. People want to see it.
Yeah.
People want to see it, and that's good for the game. No question about it. Another couple of results yesterday. Wales losing to Scotland 38-8. Canada beating Fiji 65-7. Another one-sided match. And France beating Italy by 24 points to 0.
And with my royal hat on, the Prince and Princess of Wales, of course, were wishing their England team and the Welsh team good luck because they are patrons.
Yes, exactly. Well, look, let's see how it goes. I mean, it crept up on me, I must admit, but having seen a good spectacle on Friday, I'm hopefully it'll be a good tournament.
OK, well, we've got lots more to talk about when we see you next, haven't we, including the tennis, which is getting going as well in America. Right now, though, still to come, the Prince and Princess of Wales' new home, causing a bit of a fuss. I don't quite understand that, but you'll be able to explain that, won't you? We'll be going through all of that and the papers with Andy Jones and Emma Wolfe, who are already doing their homework there. First of all, though, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's where to find it.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A settled few days across much of the Mediterranean, plenty of hot sunshine across most areas. Just the risk of a few showers, a bit breezy across parts of Greece at the moment, but sunny spells stretching across into Italy and western parts of the Mediterranean as well. Just 1 or 2 heavy showers possible, but plenty of dry weather. Again, 1 or 2 showers across Madeira. It generally stays dry the next few days, temperatures near average, but an increasing risk of showers by midweek.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News. You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, joining us to go through the newspapers now, journalist Andy Jones and political commentator Emma Wolf, who's just made me very jealous because you've got tickets for
101 Dalmatians. Take
the
my
musical.
little boy to see that just a few days before it closes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been going
very,
on
very
in the West End,
exciting.
and I must say it took me by surprise last weekend because we were talking about it, and I didn't know it was going on, but they actually have 101 Dalmatians on stage dancing and singing
Will
and everything.
puppies and
It's how they do it.
101 different dogs on stage.
Well,
No, I
it's
don't
the
think
way
they have
they do it. I
101.
don't know whether you see 101 all at the same time. But there won't be much time to count them.
No.
But it sounds... Oh, I'm so jealous, but you must tell us all about it.
I'll report back.
Those puppies are well behaved.
Her son is definitely going to try and count all of them now.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
apparently every child comes away wanting a dog, wanting a Dalmatian, which I am not up for. So here we go.
Dalmatians are hard work, actually.
Yeah, need a lot of walking.
They do need, and they have eyesight and skin problems as well because of the overbreeding, I suppose. Not in every Dalmatian, please, before you get upset about it if you're a Dalmatian owner. Actually, if you are a Dalmatian owner, get in touch.
Yes, we'd love to see some pictures of them.
Oh,
It'd
yeah.
be brilliant.
Dalmatians, I love them. I've always loved Dalmatians because we used to live very near where they did the Twilight Bark in London.
Oh, yeah.
And I took my kids up the hill there to show them. This is where the Twilight Bark started.
Well, we used to go up to the top of Primrose Hill,
Yeah,
and that's,
Primrose
of course,
Hill.
where Perdita and Pongo send out the Twilight Bark across the countryside.
Oh, I know.
Such a good story, isn't it? It's such a good story, and when you've got a good story like that, I think it lives for decades.
It's parents rescuing their children, isn't it? And then ending up with an awful lot more.
And a proper classic, proper childhood tale.
It's brilliant.
Meanwhile, Emma, lots of people are getting a bit upset about the Deputy Prime Minister's third home, even though she's Housing Secretary.
Well, we've chosen the Daily Mail. Rayner shells out $800,000 for her third home, but I also love the Sun headline, which is 3 pads Rayner.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a picture of her, I think, on a paddle boat somewhere or having a glass of wine somewhere. She has apparently bought a third, a seaside luxury apartment in Hove, which, as we all know, is just by Brighton. It's a lovely, lovely part of the country.
It is.
This is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing and Community Secretary, who is also cracking down on people owning a second home. I just don't think this is a very good look. You can argue that she has a right to buy as many homes as she wants, and she probably does. She could probably buy 10 homes. But at a time when the country, a lot of people are struggling to even find places to live in their actual home, she has her own home. She has then a 3-bedroom Grace and Favour apartment.
Which isn't hers, then.
In Westminster, isn't it?
Yeah. Admiralty.
She has one in her constituency. She has the Grace and Favour home that goes with her job, and she's just bought another. Is it fair to really criticise her for that?
I mean, look, if you want the best people to be Deputy Prime Minister, and let's face it, we do need the best talent in government, whether you're a red or blue or whatever colour voter, they are going to demand a salary and they're going to demand a certain quality of life. I think that the problem here is The timing, we were talking about a raid on second homes. Angela Rayner's previously been in trouble for, did she pay capital gains tax on a previous home she owned in Stockport? And there's various other issues like that within this government. Obviously, we had the homelessness minister who had kicked out some tenants and trebled the rent. We had the minister for corruption, Tulip Siddiqui, having to resign or being asked to resign.
But is it fair to bundle Angela Rayner in with those?
No, quite. She's. I don't think it's quite as immoral as those things. I think it's just the sense of the timing and the issue. But let's face it, if we're being absolutely fair, I'm sure that members of the Conservative cabinets previously had more than 3 homes in many months.
Of course, but I think there are valid questions, and there are certainly questions across the papers about how she's buying this, how she's funding it, because her salary is a matter of public record. Her jobs, we know what jobs she's done. She started out as a care worker, single mum. She has her MP salary.
In which case she should be applauded for actually now being a woman of substance.
I don't know. I think I'm just astonished. I'm just astonished that at this time, when Labour are so unpopular, did they not have these conversations about how it looks? We can argue about the rights and wrongs. Did they not have a conversation about how this looks?
But speaking of how it looks, you look at the photographs of Angela Rayner in the papers. She's on a canoe. She's smoking a vape. She had a glass of wine on the beach.
Wearing
she was
a dry
one of
robe.
those dry robe things.
£175 for a dry robe.
Yeah, that's kind of a woman of the people, isn't it?
Really?
Maybe not, I suppose.
But also, look, if you're in the Labour government and you're worrying about the headlines this week, having Angela Rayner buy a house is probably a pretty soft headline, considering. I mean, consider all the things that could come out this week about how mismanaged the asylum crisis is, the war in Ukraine, discussions about the economy, discussions of all sorts of different things. Angela Rayner buys third house.
No, I think it adds to the hypocrisy. I think it adds to the sort of crumbling away of any kind of integrity. Look, Keir Starmer wouldn't have gone out and bought a third home. I just wonder why they didn't have these conversations with her.
Yeah, the timing isn't good. It suggests a government that maybe isn't thinking and talking to each other on too many levels.
Well, perhaps the test is going to be, is Angela Rayner going to be successful as a housing secretary, solve the housing crisis, make sure that those who cannot afford to buy a home can make a home?
Also, communities, Tom. Sorry, Cameron. Communities, there are a lot of problems in our communities at the moment. The whole asylum hotels issue. This is her brief. This is what she should be focusing on. Instead, we're getting photograph after photograph of her on the beach with a very, very enviably large glass of white wine.
Oh, you can't begrudge her that, surely, on a bank holiday. But anyway, it's just that a woman
on a Friday.
A woman in politics is such an easy target.
I don't think it's about being a woman. I don't think it's about being a woman.
There are elements of the optics of this, but if she was a man who went to a very good private school and was in government, I'm not sure she'd get the kick.
I think there's been plenty of questions already about being in council housing, what she did with those mortgages, how she was, where she was living, all of that. So I just don't think this helps.
OK, we'll move on then to somebody else who's a target for everybody at times, Nigel Farage. Did Nigel Farage persuade Donald Trump to stop Canada jibes ahead of the King's visit? What's all this? Oh, I see. Yes, I remember the Canada jibes. This is in the Daily Mail, Andy.
Yeah, so King Charles is off to Canada, where he's head of state, to talk about, all sorts of things. And obviously there is a background at the moment where Donald Trump is very much poking Canada pretty hard. There was talk about Canada being like the 51st state. Canada should be part of America. Donald Trump, in true Donald Trump style, has been bashing Mark Carney, Canada's Premier, over the head with all sorts of different stuff, from personal jobs to professional ones. And there's a discussion in the Daily Mail, has Nigel Farage, who has President Trump's ear, had a word in Donald Trump's ear and said, maybe can we politely dial this down, the criticism of Canada, where King Charles is also the head of state in Canada. Donald Trump is the source quotes of what supposedly Farage has said to Trump, or could have said to Trump, is Trump can't be pro-royal, which he is very pro-royal. He's talking about how much he loves our royals, pro-Brit, and he is very pro-Brit, loves Scotland especially, and pro-state visit, and simultaneously demand that Canada be this sort of lapdog.
I think it's very interesting that post the King's visit to Canada, and I actually went on the visit with him and saw the reaction he got from Canadian people, that the rhetoric from Donald Trump around the 51st state of the United States of America has stopped. So was that the king, or was it secretly Nigel Farage behind the scenes? And I suppose we don't know 100% what the answer to that question is.
I'd suspect that somebody in Trump's circle had also probably mentioned it. I'm not sure he probably needed a word from Farage on the other side of the pond to realise this. I think.
Do we know when the state visit is going to happen yet?
17th of September.
Oh, that's been confirmed, has it?
It has been confirmed. We'll be live in Windsor for that with the King and President Trump. I will be very busy.
You will. OK, for the moment then, thanks to Emma and Andy. We'll see you again in the next hour of the programme. Right now, though, we are in a bank holiday weekend, so let's see what the weather's like.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, only mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The winds picking up across the west ahead of weather front slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister says he's going to curb the power of judges in asylum cases.
The Times is reporting Sir Keir Starmer will overhaul the appeal system in an effort to deport failed asylum seekers faster.
And that move would also aim to prevent the hotel crisis from derailing their immigration strategy.
But as protests gather steam nationwide, is it all too little, too late?
Meanwhile, there's a stark warning for Rachel Reeves. Economists are saying that the Chancellor, or telling the Chancellor that Britain is heading towards a 70s-style debt crisis, unless she changes her mind.
Targeting criminals, offenders will be barred from pubs, concerts and sports matches under new sentencing powers unveiled by the government today.
Meanwhile, in America, President Trump's immigrant crackdown. The US immigration population has apparently plunged by over 1 million people, and that comes amid protests against intensified law enforcement action.
Continued support for Ukraine. Defence Secretary John Healey says British military experts will carry on training Ukrainian soldiers on UK soil until at least the end of 2026.
It's a momentous day in the history of Everton Football Club as they host their maiden Premier League match against Brighton and Hove Albion at their new 53,000-seater stadium at Bramley Moor Dock. And at the US Open tennis, Emma Raducanu is in action on day one of the US Open.
There was a lot of cloud across the UK yesterday. High pressure still in charge today. Will there be some more sunshine? Find out all the weather details coming up soon.
Right, it's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Later on, we're going to be talking about the Prince and Princess of Wales's new house.
Yes, Forest Lodge.
Yeah, why is it controversial? Because it's inside the Windsor Great Park.
It's inside the Windsor Great Park area, but it's not in the Windsor Castle's so-called Ring of Steel, so it's not automatically protected by Metropolitan Police, which means that extra taxpayer money potentially needs to be spent on making the property secure. Apparently, the Prince and Princess want it to be their forever home. Some see that as controversial because...
Well, they can't have a forever home, can they?
Because one day William will be king, and the idea is, according to sources close to them, that Prince William will want to continue living in that property as king. But then what happens to Buckingham Palace? What happens to Kensington Palace, Windsor Castle, all the other properties he will have at his disposal as monarch?
Well, he's very much rumoured to be the sort of person who wants to pare down the size of the monarchy, and maybe that's what it's all about. He wants to live a more private life, even as possibly even as king.
Not possible, is it?
Well, the late Queen always said you have to be seen to be believed. To be fair to William, King Felipe of Spain does something very similar, where he lives in a modest-sized mansion on the outskirts of Madrid.
He's nowhere near the profile of the British monarchy.
No,
right?
and that is the argument. The British monarchy, perhaps, is far bigger, perhaps, than these smaller, minor European monarchies. I don't know, maybe Prince William would decide to commute. It's 12 minutes, I think, via helicopter from Forest Lodge to Buckingham Palace's garden, which isn't bad, but then, of course, you've got
maybe he's got a point. You know, maybe the future of the monarchy, I mean, we are in the 21st century already, maybe the future of the monarchy is going to be much more pared down, much more low-key. He would probably like that.
It's still a big house. Let's look at the pictures of Forest Lodge on your screens for those of you watching on TV. They'll be on our GB News website for those listening on radio. So this is it being done up in 2001. That's it. I mean, to a lot of people...
That doesn't look that special,
It doesn't
really.
look that special when you are the future king. This is the inside of the property. These are taken when it was being redone. It is a little bit, but... in the Mail today, in the middle of the paper, it's saying it's been talking about the history of this property. We had an equerry who took their own life by shooting himself in the property. A former slave owner apparently quelled a plantation rebellion back in the 1700s in this property.
And not that there was a plantation at the property.
No.
He just happened to live there.
He happened to live there. He owned the plantation in the Americas.
Well, show me an old building that hasn't got...
If that had been anywhere else, the council would have knocked it down and put a plinth in place or something.
Indeed. And apparently Lord Snowdon, Princess Margaret's ex-husband, was told that Princess Margaret was divorcing him inside that property as well. So it does have a bit of a past.
Yeah, but again, you know, I think you have to not worry about the past. My nan used
to say, it's not the dead you want to worry about, it's the living.
Yes, I think that's very true.
And for now, I think perhaps cut the Prince and Princess some slack. It's been quite a horrible year, 2024, for them, with the Princess's cancer diagnosis and all the rest of it. They want a fresh start away from Adelaide Cottage in their new property. It's closer to the children's school, so good luck to them.
Yes. It's always that way, isn't it? You have to move closer to the children's school. It's nice that they've got the same priorities the rest of us have.
Indeed.
OK, well, yeah, as to whether they'll ever be allowed to call it their forever home, because the Queen had to give up.
Yes, Winston Churchill said you have to move into
Buckingham Palace, which is being done up,
yes,
isn't it, at a vast cost. But it looks as though William would prefer to see that as just the office down the road.
Well, let's see if the Prime Minister at the time manages to persuade a future King William that perhaps he should move into Buckingham Palace.
Talking of the Prime Minister, he has made it known that he is going to overhaul the asylum appeal system, which includes limiting the authority of judges to address a mounting backlog. Of course, that's what they want to clear. Being reported in the Times, this move comes amid escalating protests, of course, over migrant hotels nationwide.
Yes, and the Home Office argues it will enable the government to move asylum seekers out of hotels faster, but could it all be a little, well, too little, too late?
John Oxley is with us, and you were saying earlier that it's going to take time. Whatever happens, it's going to take time. Unfortunately, the public seem to be getting very, very upset about the time everything seems to be taking.
Yes, and that's one of the problems this government's facing across all of the issues it's having to deal with, that things seem to be moving very slowly, whether that's on public services, whether that's on the asylum backlog. The first year of this government, it feels like not a lot has happened on any of these big issues. I think the asylum backlog is down, but only by about 8%, having built up quite a lot.
Yeah, meanwhile, more people are arriving.
Yes. So even if these plans come in, even when these plans come in, there's going to have sort of built up a head of steam. We know migrant crossings are busier in the summer months because the sea's calmer, the weather is better. So we will see them increasing sort of through the rest of this month, September, October, and then by sort of November, so say it takes 3 months for this to come into play, which I think is a very optimistic estimate. Most of the migrants for this year will have come across, and it will be trying to deal with that backlog before crossings pick up again in sort of March, April time when the weather eases off across the Channel.
The Times is reporting that there is some concern amongst Labour ministers that judges are over-interpreting the European Convention on Human Rights, specifically Article 8, which is about the right to a family life. So does that suggest that ministers are toying with the idea of getting rid of it completely, which is what Nigel Farage has said for Reform UK, or are they going to somehow persuade the judges that they shouldn't be interpreting that law in that way?
I think what they will do is, rather than wholesale get rid of it, which has implications for all sorts of other bits of the law, they'll look at drafting the legislation and the law around this in ways that say, that sort of narrow the constraints of judges and say, this is what you're allowed to consider, this is what you shouldn't be considering, and this is how you should balance the weight of it. So I don't think it will be the full-scale sort of pulling out or repeal of the Human Rights Act, but we'll be looking at the legislation that relates to asylum and sort of narrowing down how that should be applied and how that should be interpreted by the courts.
We all know one of the big problems about the processing of people is that if they are rejected straight away, and of course that takes time, but if they are rejected, they have an immediate right to appeal it.
Yes.
And it's the appeals bit that we don't really know the figures on. It looks as though they're much more likely to succeed if they appeal against it. And that's where the judges come in particularly.
That's where the judges come in, but also, like a lot of these decisions, it raises big questions about how those initial decisions are being made, whether, quite often it comes down to the person making those decisions hasn't followed the proper procedures or hasn't looked at all the evidence that they were meant to look at. And that's one of the challenges with trying to speed things up, that if you start rushing the first instance, what we call the first instance decision, so those initial applications, if you rush that too much to try and clear the backlog, those cases aren't considered properly. And then when they do come up to appeal, you've got lots of space for the lawyers to say, look, this guidance was in place and you didn't apply it to that case. And that's where those cases start to win on their appeals.
And a lot of people are a bit annoyed, let's say, that seems to be a lot of unelected, unaccountable lawyers, as you were saying, Anne, earlier on. Lawyers are making a lot of money in this situation. What exactly is going to deter the migrants from coming in the first place? Because at the moment they're stuck in the asylum system. It's going to be a delay if they are ever sent back, if they are successful in coming across in a small boat. So what's stopping them from coming across at the moment? It's kind of a one-way ticket to a life in the UK at the taxpayer's expense.
I think there's a range of sort of push factors and pull factors. One of the things we'll be looking at how quickly these decisions are made. We saw in the past when particularly decisions were made quicker and people were deported quicker, those numbers were lower, so speeding up that process could help. But we also have to bear in mind many of these, regardless of that process, will just be looking to disappear into the black economy. And so one of the things that we really need to do is look at how we crack down on rogue employers, the people who apply people who have no right to be here, no right to work here. Because that's one of the things that pulls people over, this idea that you can be getting cash in hand and sort of disappear into the economy. And that's one of the things the Home Office has been pushing as well. There's been a lot more prosecutions against companies who are using illegal migrants. We've seen that sort of tick up and some quite serious fines. So that needs to go as well, so that people are clear that if you don't have a good claim for asylum, a reasonable claim, then there's no sense in coming here at all, and that will start to push those numbers down.
We'll see. Can I ask you about a lady whose name is becoming really well known in this country and is about to be in the States, and that's one Lucy Connolly. She's not going to the States herself because she can't. That's the limitations of her licence. But Nigel Farage is taking her case to Congress, and he's going to explain to the Americans what this is all about, because very clearly the American government, anyway, is seeing this as a freedom of speech problem.
Yes.
And they want to highlight it. Now, what business is it of theirs? Why is this an important move?
I think what we're seeing is this growing network on the right between a sort of US politicians, US funders, and Nigel Farage and other figures who are trying to build this sort of transatlantic partnership. But I think there's a real risk here that we don't like foreign countries interfering in our politics. The United States has a very different position with the First Amendment legally on free speech and very different ideas around it. And I think they would be very annoyed if someone had been convicted of an offence in the United States and we were getting up in the British Parliament and criticising them. And so I think really we have to be very careful here of sort of getting in with other countries and slagging off our own. And I'm not sure that looks very good to a lot of people.
No, but it is fascinating that they are seeing it as a major problem, and maybe it is. If America is worried about this issue of freedom of speech and certainly the freedom to just be able to text something, hurty words, as people put it, then maybe it is a slap across the bow for us, and we ought to actually wake up to the fact that this is happening.
Yes, although for a long time, for example, with our libel laws, we've had a very different position from the United States and had a lot of criticism from them in certain scenarios, and have withstood that because a lot of our laws are tailored around our values, which are often quite different from the Americans.
OK. Political commentator John Oxley, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Meanwhile, of course, there's a stark warning for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, because leading economists are saying, and it's making headlines today, that Britain is heading towards a recession, or what they are sometimes calling a 1970s-style debt crisis and bailout from the International Monetary Fund.
Not ideal, and it comes ahead of the highly anticipated autumn budget, in which Reeves is widely expected to put up taxes again to cover the shortfall.
Yeah, so what's going on, and is it good news or bad? Let's get more from business commentator and co-founder of Regionally, Justin Urquhart-Stewart. Morning, Justin.
Good morning.
Glad to see the suspenders, or the braces, as we call them here, are still colourful. Is this in any way good news? Because it would get her out of a hole, wouldn't it?
Actually, she's in a very difficult position indeed, because she didn't give herself enough of space for things to go wrong. And the law of sod means that things will go wrong. And so what she's done is found herself in a position where actually she's going to find herself with what looks like a quite significant black hole. They always sound terribly dramatic, these sort of things. It can change very quickly indeed. And in fact, we've had some quite encouraging figures this week. We had some figures on inflation. We had some figures on growth. But nonetheless, what she's missed out on opportunities to actually sit there and say, actually, when the rules changed, or when the facts change, I change, which is what a well-known economist, Maynard Keynes used to say after the Second World War. You need to be able to change and adjust. And she could say that now, because facts have changed. And to actually say, right, I'm sorry, there's a bigger hole than we've got, we're going to have to adjust the tax position. It would be very embarrassing, but it would give her more chance. At the moment, what you've got is the international markets looking at what's going on in Britain and saying, can they really afford it? And does it mean we're going to have to pay more for this? And you've had some people in the papers today saying, is this Britain looking like Argentina a few decades back?
Not
actually,
quite.
No, it's not.
No, I was going to say that's really digging deep.
All it takes is a little bit of a few people like that coming up with tiresome phrases, and it frightens the market. And there's no reason to frighten the market at the moment. Yes, there's a hole. Yes, it can be closed. It's because she's going to have to make some very difficult decisions. And yes, I'm afraid I think taxes are going to have to go up in the short term because the facts have changed.
Well, why is the Chancellor pursuing this policy? Because the leading retailers have kind of been sounding the alarm, haven't they, over rising costs of taxes and red tape, leading to an era of so-called stagflation, which surely isn't great for the British economy. So why is Rachel Reeves continuing to pursue these policies?
Yes, this is rather strange. She has to try to change the style here from this one of this retail doom. We've got inflation, which has been high, but part of it has now been coming down. Quite encouraging. Find the price of wine's been actually only up by 2%, whereas you can actually compare that with, say, the cost of coffee up by 13%. So that's just possibly a personal problem of mine. But so you'll find in a position where inflation's worked its way through, and it should be coming down, but it has found itself stuck at a higher level than our competitors. And what that's mean is the cost of our debt, actually financing ourselves, is more expensive. So what she needs to try and do is actually take a more pragmatic view of this, but also do something which encourages expenditure. How do you do that? Well, and that's adjusting the taxation system. One of the primary things you can do is look at the property market, particularly as there's a lot of people have been talking about stamp duty. If you actually took away stamp duty, you can actually get a greater multiplier of expenditure, because when you buy or sell a house or a flat, the kitchen goes, the bathroom goes, everything changes. You spend more money. You spend VAT. You employ people to come and decorate and do things. You get more money going faster through the economy, and you get more confidence coming through. At the moment, what we're dealing with is summer fog, where there's no confidence. People are just seeing bad news at the moment, and she's not countering that with something more positive.
So that's a good argument, then, for getting rid of stamp duty?
Oh, absolutely. Stamp duty doesn't actually earn very much money at all. And in fact, it's the wrong way around anyway. When you've paid all, you've got an expensive property and and then the people who actually have to pay the stamp duty are the people actually buying it who haven't got any money. It should actually be the other way around, but we are where we are. But actually, it's just an old-fashioned tax dating back donkey's years. And of course, people have been frightened to get rid of it because they think, well, we need the extra cash, without actually saying that's not how our economy really works anymore. And what we have found, we are a service-based economy, not a manufacturing-based economy. We can moan about that. But actually, what we have got is an economy which is actually still growing in high-tech areas. This is a relatively small part of the economy, but positive. And it's not southeast-based, it's nationally based. That's the area to try and focus on. Not necessarily seeing headlines of our unfortunate issues with regard to the car industry, the steel industry, all of which are important industries, but they're not tomorrow's industries. And that's where we're very good at the technology, focus on that. And you can do that not by actually giving government money away, you can do it by government guarantees. So things like enterprise investment schemes and things like that, which just guarantee a proportion of the lending they're going to be getting. And do that of small startup companies. Remember, small companies are the largest employer in this country. And that's where you need to try and focus. And suddenly you go from summer fog to a little bit of actually a bit more positive attitude as we head towards an autumn budget, which may not be great news, but to make it more positive.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Justin, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you this morning. Yeah. Do you know, that would be such a popular move to get rid of stamp duty?
Yeah, I think it would. Well,
because you're saving up, you really want to buy a house, you know how it's going to really affect your home economy, and then, you know, to suddenly have to pay that as well feels like such a slap in the face.
I mean, it's an extra cost, isn't it? And houses are so expensive
it's a huge
anyway.
Extra cost.
For me, as a first-time buyer, impossible, particularly in London. And it's just really frustrating because that just does stagnate growth, doesn't it? Because people aren't being able to buy their own property, they therefore can't invest, they therefore are not setting themselves up for the future properly, and that becomes an issue.
And if you're in my age group where you're actually thinking of downsizing, for your own benefit, obviously, but also you're freeing up the market for, you know, bigger families to move into your house or something. But you then feel as well, I'm downsizing, I'm trying to spend less money, and I still get clobbered with stamp duty. It just feels wrong, and it would be a fantastically popular move for them to get rid of it, wouldn't it?
Let us know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. Now it's time for the weather with Greg Dewhurst.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, any mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The winds picking up across the west ahead of weather front slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK, and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Still to come, should criminals be banned from bars? We'll be debating that next. This is GB News Breakfast with Cameron and Anne.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
I thought you'd set up a new version of Pimlico Plumbers in London.
Yeah, my family have set up a company called We Fix London, but we started planning that, 2 years before Labour got in. If we'd known Labour was getting in, we wouldn't have planned it. So obviously we've got to comply with the tax regulations, but anybody with any sense would agree with what I'm saying. The taxes are too high in the UK for wealthy people. Wealthy people can go and work anywhere in the world and be financially a lot better off.
And we had a non-dom regime that was basically stable for 200 years. It's only recently that it's been changed. And we're changing it and making it harder, just as other countries are making it easier. So you can go to Italy and you can negotiate an amount that you will pay. Portugal's been welcoming people. Malta's been welcoming people. All over the world, countries are saying, please come and bring your money. And the UK is saying, we're going to take all your money. We don't want you anymore.
That's right. Look, they're all encouraging sort of UK business people to come there, and it's working. If you become a tax exile in Italy, you pay 200 grand for the year. You don't have to pay no more. But the real problem is we're wasting their money, and they should be encouraging entrepreneurs to be staying. I think our biggest export at the moment is wealthy people.
So you're a businessman, you know how to do things and make a profit. If you're advising the Chancellor on how to get the money the country needs to pay for the public services, what would you be saying? Because at the moment, the tax revenues don't meet our expenditure. There is a gap. Something needs to give.
Resign.
All right, but that's not the answer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 7:26. Now, criminals are going to be banned from pubs, concerts and sports matches under new sentencing powers unveiled by the government later on today.
Yes, the changes have been made to deter reoffending, with anyone who breaks these rules risking being brought back into prison.
So we're asking, and I've seen that a number of you have already been in touch, including one person who's a former police officer, saying, how are you ever going to make this work? We're asking whether criminals, people who've already been in prison maybe or sentenced to certain sorts of punishment, whether they should be banned from going to football matches, public sort of events, particularly maybe going down to the pub, or not. Would it work, I suppose, is the big question.
Yes, and we are joined now by retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector Hamish Brown and prison and justice journalist David Shipley. Good morning to you both. Hamish, let's start with you. Is this about punishing offenders, or is this about trying to stop re-offending when they come out of the prison system?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit of both, but I think what we've got to remember is just how full the prisons are, and the government today have got a dire situation and looking for alternative sentences, which in fact comes under the measures which have already been described. That's all very well and good, but what concerns me a little bit is the enforcement side. Football banning orders already exist, but say someone's not, I'm not picking on Chelsea, Chelsea Football Club, they're playing in Newcastle. It is the football liaison officers from Chelsea who travel with the supporters who can pick the person out. But other than that, it's almost unenforceable. But yes, it can be a good idea. The other side is my very varied retirement. I've done a lot of work in the criminal justice system, which includes investigations with probation service. And I know the pressure they're under, and this is more work being heaped upon them. Their numbers are low, might be improving slightly, but they're under enormous pressure. So my heart goes out to those as well. But something has to be done to punish, rehabilitate, and try to reduce the prison population.
Yeah, and it's getting that balance right, isn't it? Now, David, you've actually been on the inside of this, literally. You've been behind bars yourself. I think it was some sort of a fraud problem, wasn't it? But
that's right.
But you speak a lot about it and you write a lot about this because you are very worried about the rehabilitation, for instance, side of a prisoner coming out of prison. Do you think this would help him or her stay out of trouble, or do you think this would just feel like an extra punishment?
I don't think it'll work, no. I mean, I think that the challenge here is the government's bringing in the sentencing review, which is going to reduce the use of prisons, and then they're going to bring in the courts review, which will also reduce the use of prisons. So I think they want to be seen to being tough in some way. But I agree that actually this is going to be incredibly hard to enforce. Probation have a huge shortfall in staff. We learned this week that there's actually 10,000 more probation officers needed than was previously thought, which is a huge, huge gap to fill. And fundamentally, if someone is regularly committing crime, putting a banning order in saying they can't go to their local pub or they can't leave their town or they can't go to see their favourite football team is unlikely to do anything to solve the underlying issues. You know, if it's related to drugs, we need to be getting them onto treatment programs. If there's behavioural or violence issues, we need to be dealing with that. Just putting on more rules, which they will probably break and which will be very hard to enforce at great cost, I don't think it really achieves anything.
You mentioned probation officers, and the government says it's committed to recruiting a further 1,300 this year and an additional 1,000 trainee probation officers. So does that suggest they are trying to do something to lessen the load of probation officers while trying to tackle this issue and enforce these new rules that they're appearing to be putting out there?
I mean, they are desperately trying to hire more probation staff, and they do seem to be getting the higher numbers up. And that's important because with all these new legislation changes, there'll be much more work for probation. But as I said, there's been some data which has been worked on with the Ministry of Justice over the last few years, which has identified that, in fact, the probation service needs about 10,000 more officers than previously thought. So the shortfall now is huge. So that's a really big problem for the government. And the probation union have actually been balloting on strike action. We'll find out on Monday or Tuesday what's happening with that. So I think it's a very difficult situation, and all these new orders would only put more work on probation. So I think they need to be quite cautious about it, and really probation need to stay focused on the core job, which is keeping people out of prison.
Yeah, Hamish, just very quickly, because we are running out of time, unfortunately. How do you see this? As an announcement that's just a distraction, that's just for the way it sounds? Or do you have any idea that the government is committed to doing something about this and that it could work?
Well, I suppose it's a positive step, but at the same time, I caution against the revolving door. You give an order to someone, it doesn't really work. They breach it, they're back before the probation, back before the courts, and go to prison. So sometimes you're just delaying. Never set people up to fail. That will be disastrous. So I do hope it works, and it's a difficult situation. Crime, punishment, keeping people out of prison, but at the same time, appeasing the public and keeping them safe.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. Hamish and David, thank you very much for joining us today.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now. You could live mortgage or rent-free for a year and have an extra £5,000 in cash. Or if you don't have those worries, grab yourself a £15,000 tax-free cash lump sum. Here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News. You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Aidan is here, and I can't believe we're talking tennis today.
We are. It's come around quickly since Wimbledon, hasn't it? And we've got the US Open starting this afternoon at Flushing Meadow, just in a suburb of called Queens, just outside New York. And Emma Raducanu is in action against a qualifier, Ina Shibahara, if I've got that right. She's got a new coach, of course, who was working with Rafa Nadal for 20-odd years, I think it was. He was working with him. He seems to have made a bit of a difference in her play. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in her form in the sort of middle part of the year, Cameron, and we're excited that maybe she can just go a bit further. Don't forget, the time ticks on, as we said a minute ago, because it's 4 years exactly now since she won that maiden Grand Slam. The only major notable thing she's really done in tennis, it has to be said, although
It was quite something, though.
Well, she didn't even drop a set.
It was, but earlier this week in the doubles US Open, she was knocked out.
Yeah. She was, not a big deal, no, because I mean, all right, that's a superstars event, so they took the mixed doubles out of the main event, if you like, brought it forward, put up a $1 million prize fund, and shortened the event as well. Tennis is not. It's not dissimilar to other sports in that they're investigating how to promote shorter forms of the games, more palatable, bite-sized versions, in the way that cricket has done, in the way that rugby does as well. And that's their answer to that. And I think it might work. Emma Raducanu certainly thinks that Wimbledon should try it next summer because at the moment the mixed doubles gets kind of swamped a little bit by the main event. But nonetheless, the main event as we know it gets underway today. Venus Williams, great story. She's in action on Tuesday, 45 years old. She's got a wild card. She was declared officially inactive because she didn't play.
Declared inactive? That sounds terrible,
in tennis,
doesn't it?
in tennis terms, because she didn't play for one calendar year, and then she just came from nowhere and said, "I'm going to play the Washington Open early this year." And so she's back and she's in the main draw, as I said, a wild card. 7 times Grand Slam winner, I believe. Great to see her back.
And she knows that she's not going to win this time, doesn't she?
She does, but then I
wonder just what drives you when you've won so many.
I know, but I remember when I was a kid. I remember Jimmy Connors had a little flourish right at the end of his career. He got to the semi-finals of the US Open.
Is that right?
Yeah, long past his peak. So it can happen. Maybe she's drawing inspiration from him. I don't know, but it'll be good to see her in the draw. But I think in terms of the women's section, I think it's difficult to see past Sabalenka and Swiatek. And on Tuesday we've got Sinner and Alcaraz. That's the rivalry they're trying to foster and trying to protect, Cameron, because you need those rivalries in sport to garner the interest, to maintain the interest. We saw a great final at Wimbledon. We saw them playing just briefly in Cincinnati last week until Sinner got ill. Sinner declared himself fit and free of illness and ready to compete. He's got a little bit of grace as well because he's not in action until Tuesday, so a bit more recovery time. But we're hoping for a great tournament. And Jack Draper, of course, in action tomorrow. He got to semi-finals with Sinner last year. Yeah. Let's see if he can progress.
He could do very well.
Yes, another Brit. And meanwhile, Everton, big day for them.
Yeah, best of the rest in the Premier League. Huge day for them, Connor. 53,000-seater stadium is going to be their new home, at Bramley Moor Dock. I've got the name of it here. It's named after a law firm. I've decided I'm not going to plug them. But we've got some pictures here, as you can see, the new stadium.
Oh, wow.
Everyone's going to be piling in there today. They've got Brighton and Hove Albion. And a few stats on the stadium. I mean, it's £750 million to build over 4 years. It's on the waterfront there in Merseyside. It's the 7th biggest stadium in the Premier League, and I may as well say it's because it's going to be known as that throughout the season, but it's called the Hill Dickinson Stadium, named after a local law firm who were founded 68 years before Everton were founded. And as I say, Brighton will be going there today, but it promises to be a wonderful day. And we've got David Moyes, the Everton manager, speaking, I think a couple of days ago, just previewing the big day today.
Gosh, if you're listening...
We're all really looking forward to the new stadium. It's been something which has been in the horizon for so long, and it's now here. So, big moment for everybody. We've had the chance to be down a couple of times already. So, we hope we can get used to it as quickly as we can. Everybody knows that a new stadium is never that easy, but something we're all really excited about having now.
And not the only celebrity yesterday, Adrian Dunbar, we mentioned, was at Arsenal.
Yeah, you bumped into him at Arsenal.
Yeah, I did. And Claudia Schiffer was at Brentford yesterday.
Is she known to be a mad keen football fan?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, she's been around for a long time and never previously declared any interest in football, but she is linked, apparently, to one of the investors at Brentford. So she was there to watch them yesterday overcome Wolverhampton Wanderers. Big win for them because they've lost
She's still got that fantastic, effortless supermodel look, hasn't she?
Yes. What was she? She must be late 50s now, I would have thought.
She must be, actually.
She
doesn't look it.
No,
I find out. No, that's I think...
You keep bumping into... I know you didn't bump into her there yesterday, did you? But
no.
There's always a peppering of celebrities at these...
Particularly in London.
Well, I think if you're enticed with an invite to with a box and you've got unlimited food and drink and it's a freebie, why not?
Yeah, I know. I certainly wasn't saying no.
But also, it's the talk of Hollywood, really, isn't it?
Well, it is. You're seeing investors coming into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't worked out how they're going to make money on it because all the money goes to the players and the agents and on transfer fees. But maybe they do it for other reasons.
So much money rattling around. There's probably a bit of spare, isn't there?
There is. Yeah. Let's see.
OK, thanks very much indeed, Aidan. Right, what have we got next, then? We've got the papers coming up. And we're also going to be talking, actually in the papers, about the Prince and Princess of Wales's new home, causing a bit of a stir. There's Andy Jones there and Emma Wolfe doing their homework. First of all, though, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A settled few days across much of the Mediterranean, plenty of hot sunshine across most areas. Just the risk of a few showers, a bit breezy across parts of Greece at the moment, but sunny spells stretching across into Italy and western parts of the Mediterranean as well. Just 1 or 2 heavy showers possible, but plenty of dry weather. Again, 1 or 2 showers across Madeira. It generally stays dry the next few days, temperatures near average, but an increasing risk of showers by midweek.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. A bridge between Italy and Sicily was envisaged by the Romans. But just this week, the Italian government has approved the €13.5 billion project. There remain concerns that the money intended for the project could be siphoned off by the Cosa Nostra. Joining us now live from Rome is historian Alexander Mariotti. Alexander, it's absolutely great to see you. Tell me about the Roman plan. How did they intend to get across from the mainland to Sicily?
Well, it seems that, according to the sources, they were successful in 250 BC during the Sicilian Wars. But it was a pontoon bridge. It was a temporary bridge, and the purpose was to transport war elephants across for the Romans. Now, temporary bridge is all really they could have done. And in fact, the fact that there's no bridge today speaks to the difficulty of actually constructing it for a couple of reasons. One of the main ones is just the gale force winds that happen to pass through the Straits of Messina, not to mention that there's an incredible amount of seismic activity that took place. So even the great engineers of the Romans who were able to build the Colosseum did not foresee a feasible bridge that could connect the two pieces of land.
Now, the seismic risk, yes, indeed. I mean, Messina was devastated in an earthquake. If I recall, at the beginning of the 20th century, you must put me right. But do we think we've dealt with the seismic risk?
Well, you're absolutely correct. The 1908 earthquake was absolutely devastating. First of all, it killed between 70 to 85,000 people, not to mention the tsunamis that it created. So there is that risk. Now, in fairness, there's bridges in Japan that are completely adept to dealing with the seismic activity. So the engineers themselves on this project are fairly confident that that's not going to be an issue.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The time is 7:46. Joining us to go through the papers is Andy Jones and Emma Wolfe. Good morning to you both.
Morning. Now, Emma, just as, it's like we don't have enough immigration by small dinghy stories, here's one that they're calling a farce in the Sunday Express because people are getting bonus payouts. And who are the people getting the bonus payouts?
Ooh, Labour's Border Security Commander and various other civil service mandarins are being literally paid for failure. Obviously, asylum and immigration is the story of the summer, isn't it? And
Yes,
the story
it
of the
really
year, probably, for Labour's first year. We just had those figures showing 111,000 asylum claims in the first year of Labour's administration. Small boat arrivals up nearly 50%. It's been a record-breaking year. And here we hear that the top sort of border security commanders and the other sort of top guys around that are getting bonuses up to £15,000. So they're getting really hefty bonuses. Their salaries are between around 150 and 200,000. There's not many ways of putting this one except for they haven't succeeded. This is payment for failure. They have not succeeded in securing our borders.
So why is this happening? Is this an administration oversight, or are they being actively rewarded for not actually doing their job properly?
You tell me why they're not being held to account. I have absolutely no idea, and I have no idea why they're being given bonuses, which should be presumably performance-related. Doing their job.
If it's contractual performance-related bonuses, you'd surely think that having 100,000 asylum claims would reduce that. And also, it's not like they're processing or removing people at record rates. And this is only 18 months since the Home Office lost the records of 17,000 failed asylum seekers. And yes, obviously, that's a different calendar year, and this is a new calendar year. But you'd think that there would be a position where maybe we're not, rewarding failure, as Emma said.
These are small boat arrivals are up 50%.
Yeah.
There's no kind of other way of looking at that. That is absolute failure. They are not securing the borders.
Yeah, I mean, the Home Office would say that they're not responsible for the amount of people that are attempting to arrive. They're responsible for getting rid of people and processing claims, but they are clearly not doing that well either.
Anyway. That's at a record low as well.
Yeah, quite.
But what is that doing for the morale of the ordinary border force worker who isn't being paid these massive bonuses, and some of which, have gone on strike in the past, haven't they, for not being paid enough? So they must be pretty annoyed with their bosses for getting this kind of bonus.
You'd think so. I wonder if this bonus is for the amount of houses they've found or amount of hotels they've found, because part of the Home Office's job is to find properties, and I suppose there must be some target-related thing for that.
Given that at the end of the day it's our money, we ought to know why they're being given bonuses.
It seems to be, when you look at how the salaries have gone up and up and up, it seems to be that every year they're getting this uplift. They're getting this kind of, £15,000 increase, £20,000 increase, which, when the average person is not on anything close to that, to be getting 200,000.
And, of course, there's a big problem with civil servants working from home, not being contactable, not being in the office. Not necessarily saying that those specific people involved in the Home Office, but it's this position of unaccountable, reward for failure, position where this is a terrible results for the UK and they've been rewarded.
And I don't... To be a bit rude, I don't really care about their morale. It's not about morale, it's about doing your job. You're paid to do your job. I know it's a difficult job. Of course it's a difficult job. It really is. I wouldn't want to be the border security commander.
But are they getting 150 grand a year?
Or 200 now.
Yeah.
Then they absolutely need to do their job.
OK, Andy, have you found us a bit of good news in the Sunday Times?
No.
Oh.
I don't know. Well, this is another asylum bonus. If you're angry about asylum bonuses, do look away now. Still in the Sunday Times, UK and Albania have been working on a fast-track repatriation scheme. It's been going on quietly for a couple of years. They've succeeded in removing 13,000 Albanians, but the kicker in it is some of these Albanians have been given 1,200 quid just to leave. Sunday Times has spoken to a gentleman, Yad Sikaj, who was jailed for 18 months for being part of a marijuana farm. He was working in here illegally. He paid 20,000 to people smugglers to get him into Britain. He was then doing cash-in-hand jobs, illegal jobs, ended up in prison 18 months. What happened then? You'd think he'd be, Mr. Sikaj, sling your hook. He was actually presented with a bank card for an Albanian bank by UK immigration officials for 1,200 quid. It was Mr. Sikaj, you're leaving prison, you're leaving Britain, here's a card, don't come back. Which I find absolutely astonishing. I didn't realise they were giving sort of payment cards.
It's almost like a golden goodbye or a golden...
sums. Yeah. Thanks for coming here, breaking our laws, criminality.
Do come again.
Do come again.
We put you up in our prisons. How much does that cost the taxpayer? And you're being paid to leave.
It's incredible. And just as a point, the story also discusses, it goes to this tiny northern Albanian mountainous town, and there's all these people there who earn only £400 a month, and they're all sat around saying they've gone to Britain, tried it was so bad that they're coming back. 400 quid a month, and they'd sooner be there than here.
But £1,200, do they not think of the optics around this?
Well, it's 3 months' pay, according to the article, yeah.
Well, quite possibly, but it's just not very good optics in terms of those who made the decision to give the Albanians £1,200 of British taxpayers' money, as you say, a bit of a reward.
It's absolutely infuriating. With people looking at their bank statements today thinking, I wish I had 1,200 quid. I suppose the argument by the government is it's so expensive to keep people here that giving them a sum of money rather than at least £40,000 a year to keep somebody on. And obviously he's not going to be able to get a job in Britain now legally because he's got a criminal record. Paying him off, I suppose they will say it's fair, but it sounds absolutely dreadful.
Emma, tell us about the story in the Daily Mail about William and Kate's forever home.
Oh, their forever home. We were just saying it's slightly grating, that term, isn't it? It's a bit twee,
I wish
forever
we all had
home.
a forever home.
And also nobody, I mean, they don't know about their forever home because there may be some big moves on the horizon in the next few years. They may be moving to a significantly bigger palace. But no one knows what a forever home is, you know, your circumstances change.
Well, it appears Prince William wants to stay there when he
wants
does
to.
throne.
He wants to. Yeah, so this is William and Kate apparently moving from Adelaide Cottage, which are described as pokey digs.
Pokey digs.
Really? Pokey digs in Windsor Great Park.
Yeah, I have not been to that specific house. Do we have those pictures of Forest Lodge?
I think it's a 4-bedroom house, but I know many families with 3 children who don't think that a 4-bedroom house, a large 4-bedroom house with staff, is pokey digs.
But
you know.
to be fair, in terms of royal standards, here you are for those of you listening on television. They're on gbnews.com if you want to take a look, if you're listening on the radio later. But in terms of royal standards for the future king, that is quite a small house.
No, I get it, and I didn't say Wills and Kate had said pokey digs, but the Daily Mail described it as the pokey digs in Windsor Great Park, which is just funny. Okay. Anyway, they're apparently moving to their 8-bedroom Forest Lodge. But there are murky links to apparently a former owner. There's a sort of dark history to Forest Lodge. My issue with this, in terms of slavery and in terms of bringing people over from West Africa and Guyana, if you go far enough back, there are always going to be. We saw this with Bristol and Colston and all of that. So, yes, you go back into history, these beautiful historical buildings like Forest Lodge, it's going to be problematic.
Yeah, every old house is in Britain, actually, isn't it?
But it's close to the schools, so it doesn't matter.
Absolutely, that's the important things. Here's the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, only mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The winds picking up across the west ahead of weather front slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister has said he's going to try and curb the power of judges in asylum cases.
The Times is reporting Sir Keir Starmer will overhaul the appeal system in an effort to deport failed asylum seekers faster.
Now, that move would also aim to prevent the hotel crisis from derailing the government's strategy on immigration.
But as protests gather steam nationwide, is it all too little, too late?
Meanwhile, there's a stark warning for Rachel Reeves. Economists say that Britain is heading towards a 70s-style debt crisis unless she changes her strategy.
Targeting criminals, offenders will be barred from pubs, concerts and sports matches under new sentencing powers unveiled by the government today.
And in the States, President Trump's immigrant crackdown. The US immigrant population has apparently plunged by over 1 million people. That comes amid protests, of course, against the intensified law enforcement action that could be bringing the whole thing about.
And continued support for Ukraine. The Defence Secretary John Healey says British military experts will carry on training Ukrainian soldiers on UK soil until at least the end of 2026.
Arsenal underlined their title prowess with a 5-goal demolition of Leeds United at the Emirates. New signing Victor Gyökeres was off the mark with 2 goals. Iberi Eze was presented to the crowd, and 15-year-old Max Dowman made his debut off the bench.
There was a lot of cloud across the UK yesterday. High pressure still in charge today. Will there be some more sunshine? Find out all the weather details coming up soon.
Well, it's just gone 8 o'clock already. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I do love sport talk. The way it's a totally different language,
it is,
isn't it?
It is.
Because there you were talking about the demolition of somebody else. And
fiasco, words like fiasco.
Yeah.
They come into it, don't they? Bonanza, all these words.
There's a lovely story in today's Sunday Mirror. It says the late, great 1966 World Cup hero, Sir Bobby Charlton, is still scoring magnificent goals for youngsters in war-torn Ukraine. Apparently, one of the charities that he set up, it was a foundation for training youngsters anywhere in the world. This particular one started in Cambodia, apparently, and it was for youngsters to learn football, for them to become mobile again after treading on landmines.
Yes.
But now there's a load of Ukrainian kids learning at one of his sort of academies.
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't that fabulous?
the word legacy is quite pertinent here, because I can't think of a foundation or a charitable entity within football or sport, in fact, which has endured as long as that has. I mean, back in, I think, 84, 85, Bobby Charlton's soccer school was founded. It famously spawned David Beckham. A friend of mine was, I think I mentioned to you earlier, and he was the local reporter on, I think, one of the papers in Leytonstone in East London, and he knew the Beckham family, and he was invited to a skills competition at Old Trafford one weekend. It was a televised match against Tottenham. It was a 3-3 draw back in November 1986. And the family invited this fellow, Richard Lewis, to go and spend the weekend, not expecting David Beckham to actually win the competition that was held either at half-time or before the match.
Yeah.
But he went and won the thing, and that was kind of the start. He was brought to the attention
How
of
old
Man United.
would he have been at that time?
Let me see. Beckham's 50 now, so 86, he would have been probably about 9 or 10, I would have thought.
Wow.
So
way before people knew his name.
Yeah, but I think that was the first time he was brought to the attention of Manchester United. So Bobby Charlton said, well, look, probably Fergie had literally just taken over at United, like weeks before. And one of the things Sir Alex Ferguson was concerned about when he got to the club was that the rivals, Manchester City, were getting the best of all the young players. And he said, well, why aren't we getting the best? They needed to expand their network far and wide, and Bobby Charlton delivered that first one with David Beckham. And, of course, Ryan Giggs was in the system as well, and Gary Neville and Phil Neville and so forth.
It is the word legacy. It really means something, doesn't it?
You see a lot of these things come and go. Through lack of funding and various other things. That one has stood the test of time.
It is so
like the man himself.
It's so important to keep these grassroots organisations going, so you can acquire talent from all over.
Yeah, I mean, scouting networks weren't as sophisticated then, so it wasn't as taken as read that United would find a player in East London. You know, normally it'd be, well, they think, well, Arsenal or Spurs will get him, or West Ham. That's where he should have
out all the time, then, have they?
They have, yeah. I mean, Alan Shearer was famously scouted from under the noses of Newcastle, where he's from, by Southampton, other end of the country.
Oh, wow.
And that was in the 80s as well. Yeah. So you did used to get anomalies, but scouting goes on all over the world now. A club like Stoke City would have a scout in Central and South America, just dedicated to farming that area, if you like.
Well, there you are. There are kids in Ukraine doing really well as well, in his legacy, in his name, which is fab. All right, let's move on to the stories of the day, and you can guess what they're about. The Prime Minister apparently is going to overhaul the asylum appeal system, limiting the authority of judges to address a mounting backlog. Being reported in The Times, apparently this all comes amid escalating protests, of course, which we saw yesterday, over migrant hotels.
Indeed, and the Home Office argues it will enable the government to move asylum seekers out of hot hotels faster, but could it all be too little too late?
Well, joining us now in the studio, GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. I haven't seen you since you left to have the baby. How is he?
He's wonderful, yeah. He's 8 months old now.
But you can't stay away from politics, can you?
No,
I mean, you must have been
exactly.
sitting at home. I know you don't want to leave your baby, of course, at home. But the lure of coming back to work, there is so much to talk about at the moment.
So much to talk about. I had 5 months where nothing very much happened, and then the local elections happened, and it suddenly got so exciting. So I'm very pleased to be back.
Yeah,
really,
well, I'm glad you are back, yeah. So, it seems like they're always on the back foot, this government. Something happens, the people get riled up about it, they start speaking about it, or opposition members start speaking about something, and then it's almost as though there's a knee-jerk reaction from the government. Is this another?
Well, it does feel like it. Ministers say that these plans have been in the works for weeks and weeks, and yet they have only reacted, as you say, it does feel a little bit knee-jerk, since this Epping protest and the resulting High Court injunction injunction which allows the council to block this protest. So you've got the situation where the government is desperately trying to do something about the number of migrants housed in hotels. That has gone up hugely, gone up by 8% just since Labour took office. In the last financial year alone, it's cost £5.4 billion. Now, the reason behind this huge and expanding number of migrants being housed in hotels is how long the asylum process takes. On average, it takes over a year, and sometimes it could take much, much longer, many, many years, for an asylum decision to be reached. And that is because there's this sort of labyrinthine process between a person applying for asylum and their case finally being either accepted or rejected. Lots of them are rejected right at the beginning, and then they go through this process where they can appeal to a tribunal. Now, what the government is saying at the moment is that the problem is that there's first-tier tribunal judges, as they're called, the very first people you can appeal to if you're an asylum seeker who's had your claim rejected. They are over-interpreting the EU right to a family life and essentially pushing through lots of appeals which the government think, which Yvette Cooper and the Home Office think should not be accepted. So what the government is proposing to do now is get rid of that layer of first-tier tribunal judges, get rid of a layer of the judiciary. So essentially, instead of having those judges, you would just have a board of sort of professional adjudicators, they're calling them. And what the government hopes is that that would mean that lots of those asylum appeals which get accepted would actually be rejected at that very first hurdle. And that would theoretically really speed up the process. Now, there's lots of problems here. Obviously, one of them is that there is this enormous backlog of asylum seekers in hotels. And as you said there in the introduction, it feels like a little bit too little, too late. Perhaps if you started with this programme now and you didn't have a backlog, you might be able to clear some cases quickly. But with this sort of bottleneck, it'll be very hard to make an impact at the kind of speed that the government needs an impact to be made. The other problem is that there are going to be lots and lots of left-wing Labour MPs who don't like this at all, who will worry, who will believe that the human rights of these asylum seekers are being compromised because they won't be able to get that legal right to appeal at the very first hurdle. Now, you would think that with a Labour majority of whatever it is, I've lost track, but, you know, that huge Labour majority that Keir Starmer won last year, that wouldn't really matter, that this would get through really easily. But as we saw with the welfare bill, actually, those Labour MPs aren't particularly loyal to Keir Starmer, and they could easily upturn this legislation before it even gets through the Commons.
But what's to stop these independent adjudicators, like the judges have, over-interpreting the European Convention on Human Rights?
Well, I think that's a real worry, and I think Yvette Cooper is very aware of that. Now, she says that what she's going to do is tighten up the guidance in the first instance for these first-tier tribunal judges, and then once they are replaced by the professional adjudicators, for the professional adjudicators too. But of course, you know, people like them. Who chooses them, exactly. And also you have people like Nigel Farage, Kemi Badenoch too, would say that some of these judges are motivated by politics, really, that they have a sort of ideological agenda. And as you say, how do you stop those professional adjudicators having exactly the same kind of agenda? Surely the sort of person who decides to go into that job has a kind of real interest in human rights and might interpret them in exactly the same way as the judges have done before them. I think the Home Office thinks that they might have a little bit more control over professional adjudicators employed by the Home Office than they do by lawyers.
Do you think any government at the moment would be able to solve this crisis in time? It's just as you were explaining at the beginning. They can't. If they were starting from zero, they might be able to actually invent a system that worked. But now there is such a horrendous backlog that can you ever catch up?
Well, it's a really interesting question. And of course, Nigel Farage believes that he can. Really interesting interview with him yesterday in the Times. Even he admits that it would be incredibly expensive. What he would like to do is have a 6-month voluntary returns period, a sort of amnesty, essentially, where migrants who've come here, who are awaiting their appeals, so they're being housed in hotels at the moment, could choose to be sent home. Now, he would immediately give them, no questions asked, £2,500 and pay all of their airfares and expenses to get back to the country that they came from. He admits that that would be very, very expensive indeed, but he says that actually over the course of 5 or 10 years, the overall cost would be a lot smaller. So that's what he thinks he could do. That's the kind of most drastic, most dramatic solution. Kemi Badenoch is going to announce, we're pretty sure, at Conservative Party conference that she would want to leave the European Court of Human Rights. Obviously, that would speed things up a lot more. But as you say, with a backlog this size, it's going to be really, really tricky, particularly with just so much opposition from within the establishment. Left-wing Labour MPs, human rights lawyers, charities, Refugee Council is very vocal at the moment too. It's a really, really tough ask.
Yes, I don't envy the government's trying to do this, actually.
No, and you could argue that if Nigel Farage is looking forward to the point where he might become Prime Minister, you've got another 4 years of not sorting out the problem. So how big's the backlog going to be by then?
Indeed, and lawyers making a lot of money out of all of this as well.
Yes, you can't help think they were laughing all the way to the bank. Olivia, thanks very, very much indeed. Lovely to see you back. Right, now, back in the States, they sort of got the same problem, but have attacked it in a different way because they have a different president. The immigrant population in the United States has fallen by over 1 million people since Donald Trump took power in January. And it has apparently been growing for the last 50 years. So something's made a difference.
It certainly has, and it comes with tough rhetoric from the president, who has declared that immigration is actually a threat to the nation and not one of its strengths.
Well, we're joined in the studio now by spokesperson for Republican Overseas in the UK, Jennifer Ewing.
Hi.
It is a remarkable figure, isn't it? The population, the immigration has fallen by 1 million.
It is, though it shouldn't completely be a surprise, because if we remember during Trump's first term, starting before he was even elected in 2015, that's what he was talking about, you know, strengthening the border against illegal crossings. And then he did that to a certain degree. When President Biden got in, he immediately put a line through 93 of the Trump first policy issues around the border. So we saw the numbers skyrocket. So once again, Trump in 2024 ran on closing the border to illegals. And indeed, that's what's happened. I mean, he has Tom Homan, who's fantastic. You know, you said the numbers that he's done. And what they're doing is they're going after the very low-hanging fruit. You know, they're going after these criminals who have done actually quite bad things. While the newspapers will sometimes like to tell you, oh, they're going after, you know, somebody's abuela or somebody's housekeeper or gardener. I was just in California for 2 weeks. I can tell you that that's definitely not the case.
They're going after really hard
criminals. They're going after really hard criminals.
Murdered and raped and done all sorts of things, but have apparently just been sort of loose on the street.
Well, you're exactly right. And, you know, the other thing that's remarkable that doesn't get a lot of headlines is the fact that we knew under the Biden administration there were over 300,000 migrant children that were lost in the United States. Lost. Tom Homan has managed to, I believe, find 100,000 of these children. So when they're doing some of these raids, there's some really good things that come out of it. The other thing to take into consideration is one of the blockers on this are what we have in certain places called sanctuary cities, like San Francisco and I believe Boston, like a lot of the left-leaning cities who are saying, no, we're not going to follow the federal laws. We will protect anyone illegal in our city. Well, that's not really helpful, because all they needed to do is allow ICE, you know, who's in charge of this, to go into the jails and, you know, check records of criminality versus legal status. That way they don't need to go through neighborhoods, go to the, you know, the famous incident that kicked off the riots at the Home Depot. So for this point, there are enough hardened criminals that are illegal in the country, as you said, and wandering around, that, you know, he can work on that before he gets to anyone's gardener.
One of the problems the UK government is running into is there's so many legal challenges when you try and deport criminals or indeed anyone illegal in this country here. So is President Trump having the same issue in the US and is managing to fight it far more successfully, or do you kind of not have these human rights laws and all the rest of it in the US?
That's a great question. Two things. First of all, this is an 80-20 issue in the United States. So even Democrats now realize, like, nobody's fighting against illegal criminals getting kicked out. That's number one. Number two, we do have activist judges, for sure, who are trying to push back against President Trump. You saw that whole issue that went on, and he was actually, you know, I think, been told to be released. Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was arrested and charged with child trafficking. Then Then they sent him to El Salvador. Now he's going to be back, and he's going to face trial. So we'll see what happens with that. But to answer your question, yes, we do. I just think there's more of a political will. Like if some of these originally Democrat senators and congresspeople were on the side of the criminals, like good luck running for your seat in the midterms, right? Because the people do not want to see criminals
running. But he has had
them.
legal trouble about his alligator Alcatraz.
Oh, absolutely, you're right. And that happened, that came out on Friday, I believe, or Thursday. And the issue with that was not even a human rights issue. It's an environmental issue. You know, these special, we see this a lot in California.
Save the alligators.
Yes, there's somebody's bones are there, like an Indian burial ground or some worm or something. So it will be appealed. And of course, it's been such a popular idea that there are others that are springing up in Nebraska. You know, the Cornhusk Clink. I think there's a Speedway Slammer. So people are, I know it sounds a little silly, but again, people voted for this. This was one of his 2 issues, was fixing the illegal immigrant crisis. Because you know what? There's so many people who are waiting in line. When I go back to California, I talk to, Mexican people who came here legally, who have maybe a fiancé or a family member that's been waiting in line to get into the United States of America, or, people who are trying to get jobs or go to schools, other types of things. And the more illegal people we have, the less legal people we have.
Yes,
so we need to reverse that.
Everybody gets tarred with the same brush, as they say. How is President Trump's popularity? Earlier on in the programme, we heard that he had the worst the worst popularity ratings of any president.
It's really funny, and of course, with all things Trump, it depends who you ask, right?
Yes.
I talk to some people who are not Trump fans, and they're like, "Oh my God, the country's falling apart." Other people are, it's never felt more patriotic. America's back. This is great. Law and order, all this sort of thing. So again, depends who you ask. You're right. He had great ratings for a while, then they went down. However, he quoted a poll the other day that said after the meeting with Putin, he went above 50% to 54%. So Trump is a very polarizing figure. I don't ever see him getting into the 80% or anything like that. But, most people do feel, especially with a lot of these 80-20 issues, that the country is starting to go in the right direction, whether they'll admit it or not.
I love it when, even if nobody else is convinced, he brings out a new cap, doesn't he, that says, what was his latest one said, I was right all along. Or
yeah, I was, exactly. He's having fun with that. I think he tried to sell that to some of the European leaders.
Thank you so much. Great to talk
to you this morning.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, and you'll have to
he certainly likes some merch, doesn't he?
With merch?
The Make America Great Again cats.
Well, it was always a great slogan, and of course it can be shortened to MAGA, and it's become a movement.
Yes.
Some people, it's like Marmite, some people love it, some people hate it.
We may need a baseball hat this weekend because the weather looks rather good. Shall we have a look?
Yes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, only mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The wind's picking up across the west ahead of weather fronts slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK, and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK, into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and have £5 in cash. Or if you don't have mortgages or rent to pay, how about a £15,000 tax-free cash lump sum? Here's how to take part.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, we have some breaking news for you because President Zelensky has revealed a letter written to him by the King, and we will tell you all about that in just a moment. This is GB News Breakfast with Cameron and Anne.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And that is the sort of rumblings over who on earth is going to be chosen to be godfather to the Duke of Westminster's new child, Cosima. Now, Hugh Grosvenor, of course, friends with both Prince William and Prince Harry for the longest time. He is godfather to one of each of their children. He's now got a sort of a difficult choice to make.
Yes, he has. I mean, he is godfather to Prince George, and we believe he's godfather to Prince Archie, although the Sussexes have never declared who the godparents are. In that situation, you got William was at the wedding. He was an usher at the wedding, so he had a job to do. Harry declined to turn up and had told Hugh Grosvenor that he wasn't coming, because of the friction it could have caused with him and his brother. That friction would still be there if he invited both of them to be godparents. It's going to be interesting to see how we get this one sorted. You would expect William will be definitely a godfather. I think Hugh would like to have Harry as a godfather because that's what you do. If you have a godfather from someone, then you will reciprocate.
Do we know when the last time Prince Harry and Prince William actually met was? I mean, this feud runs deep.
They certainly met at the unveiling of the Diana Memorial in the garden, and they were there. But then there was an attempt. I think it was, I can't remember, sometime after, it was either the Queen's funeral or someone else, maybe Prince Philip's funeral, where there was attempts to try to get them to talk together.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, welcome back. It's 8:26, and Cameron's had a letter from President Zelensky.
A letter, yes, a tweet from President Zelensky with a letter from the King. So today is Ukrainian Independence Day. I think it's 33 or 34 years since it gained independence from the Soviet Union, and of course is still battling the Russian invasion. Now, the King has written to President Zelensky and says, "Dear Mr. President, my wife and I sincerely congratulate you and the people of Ukraine on the occasion of Independence Day. I keep feeling the greatest and deepest admiration for the unbreakable courage and spirit of the Ukrainian people. I remain hopeful that our countries will be able to further work closely together to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. My wife and I are delighted to extend our warmest and most sincere wishes to you and all Ukrainians for the coming year." Signed, King Charles III. And, of course, the King has known President Zelensky for a long time. Shortly after the invasion in March 2022, when he was still Prince of Wales, he called out what he described as, and I quote, Russia's terrible aggression. He did not repeat that phrase in the letter this morning. However, of course, we do know...
Well, everybody's tiptoeing around the possible meeting between Putin and Zelensky.
Exactly. I suspect he is holding his tongue a little bit for the sake of diplomacy. But I think it is quite telling. We just see pictures of the King and President Zelensky there, for those of you watching on television, in Windsor Castle. The King, they've obviously met a number of occasions, but I think the most significant meeting, Anne, I don't know if you remember, do you remember the screaming match between President Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office? Incredibly uncomfortable watch. That was back in February of this year, 2025, where Trump accused Zelensky of gambling with World War III. Just days after, the King invited President Zelensky to Sandringham, and there were pictures of the two of them chatting. Here we are. This is them in Sandringham.
Well, it was the first place that Zelensky came to after that terrible meeting in the Oval Office. And obviously the King there, allowing those photographs to be taken, showing the real British support for Zelensky the man and Ukraine the nation.
It was, and of course President Trump has huge admiration for King Charles, and these pictures sometimes can speak a lot louder than words, and that's exactly, I think, what happened here. And in fact, President Zelensky this morning, in response to the letter, said, "His Majesty's kind words are a true inspiration, and we appreciate the United Kingdom's leadership in supporting Ukraine and our just cause to defend the freedom against tyranny," praising the United Kingdom's leadership. Because
that's very telling too.
It is telling, of course, because it has been President Trump who's been, let's say, trying to broker a deal between President Zelensky and President Putin. Let's see if there's going to be a tri-summit between Trump essentially being the referee between Putin and the Ukrainian president. But then you just think, and back to March 2022 when this all kicked off, it was our former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, wasn't it? He went to Ukraine and did the Churchillian thing and said, no, we will, defend this country. And, of course, the King is following suit and leading the nation on Ukraine Independence Day.
That's lovely, and it's Ukrainian Independence Day. That's the important bit. Can I, while you're talking...
Oh, yes.
While you're here, being our royal correspondent... ask you about the story that seems to be building and building. That we know that Harry and Meghan have signed a new Netflix deal.
They have.
But it's not quite as good as it sort of sounds, because basically it means that they have to, if they have a good idea, they've got to take it to Netflix first, and Netflix will either accept the idea or not. And, of course, then you have to think that it's 30 years. In 2027, it'll be 30 years since we sadly lost Princess Diana. And the talk is that Harry and Meghan are going to do a documentary about Princess Diana for Netflix in 2027. Now, what do we think of that? Because Up until now, Harry has always been very offended about the press getting involved with, his private life and his mother's. Been very upset about it, but here he is, apparently going to make a documentary, and presumably without anything from William in it.
I mean, quite possibly. This hasn't been verified, and Netflix haven't announced anything. But it wouldn't surprise me if Prince Harry does do something on the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. But it puzzles me because I remember there was a documentary when Harry was still a working member of the royal family with Prince William, where both of them were interviewed at length about the legacy of their mother, Princess Diana. And both of them said, or their spokesperson at the time said, this is the one and only time we will speak on the record at length about our mother. So it would be a real contradiction to that fact if Harry then did a Netflix documentary on his mother without Prince William, of course, would be controversial. But then it suggests that perhaps money talks, or perhaps Harry's been backed into a corner by Netflix if this indeed turns out to be true.
Well, Netflix would want to do. I mean, most of the television companies and film companies will want to do something about the 30th anniversary.
Oh gosh, yes.
Well, Netflix have got Harry and Meghan.
They do.
And the two things are bound to coincide, aren't they?
And you look at the highest ratings of whatever documentary Harry and Meghan have done since they signed that initial deal with Netflix back in 2020 was the Harry and Meghan documentary, where they documented their exits as working members of the royal family, of course, spilling a lot of royal secrets, attacking many members of their own family, which led to a huge drop in their popularity here in the United Kingdom. That rated incredibly well for Netflix. In fact, it was, one of the highest rated shows of all time on Netflix. Ever since then, they haven't quite managed to pick up the ratings. So is Prince Harry going to, by doing another royal documentary, but perhaps centred on his mother, perhaps less controversial if he's focusing on her charity work?
Well, if you were the Netflix director or producer, you would say, we could have something new. We need new material, photographs. We need you to tell us some new stories. So you are going to go into the realms that, until now, we understood Harry and William didn't want to ever exploit.
But what hasn't been said about Princess Diana? And that is part of the point. But of course, one of the huge problems Prince Harry has with the press is the way they treated his mother, Princess Diana, which ultimately led to her distrusting her bodyguards, her getting into a car with a drunk driver, her not wearing a seatbelt, being chased by paparazzi and crashing in the Place d'Alma tunnel in Paris, and which ultimately ended her life. And he has had such a vendetta against the press ever since Prince Harry. Is he really going to put her name in spotlights again? Well, we'll see. Watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, well, we'll leave it there for the moment. Coming up, of course, we've got more women's success in the Rugby World Cup to celebrate. Aidan will be here in just a couple of moments.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Aidan's here, and we've got to celebrate the success of the women's rugby team.
Yes, well, that was on Friday, but we've seen some good action since then. I was worried that the game's a bit one-sided. I'm still worried about that, but nonetheless, Australia beating Samoa yesterday by 73 points to 0. Scotland beat Wales by 38 points to 8. It's good that these are going around the country as well. I mean, the match on Friday was in Sunderland. We saw 2 matches yesterday played on the same day in Salford. Exeter was also a venue. And interestingly enough, as I mentioned a couple of hours ago, the final in Twickenham is actually sold out already, even though nobody knows
who's going to be playing.
No, I mean, look, you would think that with England being favourites, there's a good chance they'll be there, but there's also every chance that they're not. I mean, England I don't think they've won this tournament before. They're certainly not the holders.
But it's great kudos for women's rugby, the fact that Twickenham's been sold out already.
Well, I think that I mean, it's sensible to go around the country. Because too much stuff is focused in London, just in life, not just in sport. And so Sunderland was a great venue for that. And there's a bit of a rugby union following up there as well. Obviously, Newcastle Falcons quite close by. They have quite a strong following, quite a decent team in the Premiership. So that sort of crossover from there would happen. And you bring it, with the exception of Sunderland Football Club, the area doesn't see that much top-class sport. So I think it's a good place to have it. It's been thought out, which is good, and the numbers seem to be bearing out the strategy, because 43,000 is only 5,000 short of capacity, and that's a big old stadium to fill out on opening night. It really is. And so yesterday we saw some decent attendances. France beating Italy by 24 to 0, and I think it's going on for at least the next 2.5 weeks, I think. So we'll see how that pans out.
We certainly will. And what have we got in football today?
Well, look, we've got today we've got some good matches, because Everton are hosting their new stadium. 53,000, or just under, a slither under 53,000, are going to be at the game. They're facing Brighton. It's going to be the 7th biggest stadium in the Premier League. It's been about, there's some pictures there of the stadium in front of us for the benefit of our radio listeners, but you can see it's a very grandiose design. It's been sponsored by a law firm. They've been waiting 4 years to get into it. That's how long it's taken to build, but it's been delivered. I'm not sure if it's on budget, because it seems quite pricey at £750 million. It always goes over budget. But it is at least delivered on time, and they'll be pleased to get in there today, and they'll be looking for a win when they kick off at 2 o'clock against Brighton and Hove Albion.
Lots of glass windows I can see in that stadium.
Yeah, that's a bit unique. I don't know. Sometimes these stadiums are built to be expanded. So if you get some success, maybe you've got some scope to build in another tier.
Oh.
I just wonder whether that glass structure behind the goal it might be ready for another 10,000 fans in years to come. There's certainly that option available at some of the stadiums or structures that have been built in the last 30 years or so. And we must touch on Arsenal as well. Massive stories there all over the place. Their new striker.
Main story that you were there to watch it.
No, that's not the main story, is it?
No, is it?
No. Look. Brilliant result for them, first of all, 5-0 against Leeds. Gyökeres scoring on his debut. Sorry, not his debut, his first 2 goals in his second game as a Premier League player. Ebere Eze, who they nicked from under the noses of Tottenham earlier in the week, presented to the crowd. And a 15-year-old player coming off the bench, winning a penalty, Max Dowman. Remember the name, as was once said about Wayne Rooney. I think we can certainly say that about this young man, because I think he's going to be around for a long time to come.
Very
and
exciting.
he's in year 10.
I know,
Year
it's
10,
crazy,
it's just
doesn't
incredible.
And we weren't even sure. We were speculating yesterday at the match whether he'd be allowed up late enough to watch the highlights.
Oh, probably not. He needs to do his homework.
Imagine being that successful, that young.
Actually, he'll be swatting for his GCSE. Oh, no, maybe he'll have
next
just
year. So, he's got, year 10.
Year 10. Year 11 you do your
No,
GCSE.
it's bank holiday. I think he's allowed some time.
Yeah, I think he will, yeah. Well, but look, there's every chance he could play 20 games for Arsenal this season. Because if you're good enough, they won't care that he's 15.
Now, the tennis. The US Open begins today, and we've got Emma Raducanu playing.
Yes.
Which will be worth looking at.
Ina Shibarara.
How do I watch it? Is it available anywhere in Britain?
I didn't think I was allowed to say where to watch other things on this channel. But no, I think it's usually on Eurosport.
I should be able to find a way, should I?
You should be, just search around, twiddle a few knobs and you should find it. But usually one channel has wall-to-wall coverage. But you know what? Lots of people just watch the bits that they're interested in. They watch it on social media now. There's not much value in buying the rights.
People watch it on social media?
Just short clips, yeah.
Oh,
That's how
it's not the same as watching a proper match.
No, but do you really want to watch the first round matches against a qualifier?
Yeah, I do if it's Emma Raducanu.
Do you? OK, fair enough. Well, I think most people would think... It's getting like that in football as well, and people just think that I don't need to watch 90 minutes of a match to get the two interesting minutes that happen.
If you're really interested in a sport, you want to watch that.
All right, but what about PMQs? Would you watch PMQs from start to finish, or would you watch the sound bites?
No, I watch start to finish.
What about you, Cameron?
Well, I would also watch it start to finish, but we're also paid to watch it start to finish. So.
You watch the excitement build. That's the point.
It's the theatre of it, isn't it?
It is.
It's not necessarily the sport or the political debate, it's the entertainment.
Well, here's one to ask you at home. I mean, would you watch these things just in little snippets on social media? It's the way the youngsters do it now.
I hope they're not watching us in little snippets.
I'll bet they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. They'll watch us too on
the drama
television
builds.
or radio.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Good to see you both.
Yeah, Aidan, thanks very much indeed. Right, still to come. Are Generation Z, more ruthless when it comes to love? Apparently, we're going to be discussing that in the newspapers with Andy and Emma. There they are. How did they come up with that one? First of all, though, if you're looking for some holiday sun in Europe, here's the top forecasts.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
A settled few days across much of the Mediterranean, plenty of hot sunshine across most areas. Just the risk of a few showers, a bit breezy across parts of Greece at the moment, but sunny spells stretching across into Italy and western parts of the Mediterranean as well. Just one or two heavy showers possible, but plenty of dry weather. Again, one or two showers across Madeira. It generally stays dry the next few days, temperatures near average, but an increasing risk of showers by midweek.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Igniting that debate over controversial monuments in our public spaces.
Oh, joining us now is historian and broadcaster Rafe Heidelman-Koo. Rafe, what do you make of this?
Well, the woke Taliban are back again. I thought we had seen the last of them after their insane conduct, after the Black Lives Matter madness. But I'm afraid this is par for the course. You know, Baroness Debonair is a poster child for this nihilistic, this destructive self-loathing that's sweeping the nation right now. And of course, she's symbolic too of the left's long march through the institutions. Here we have again a failed politician and woke ideologue who's now untouchable in the House of Lords and can preach this sort of anti-British ideology free from any consequences. Clive of India has been unfairly attacked and maligned in the past for a very long time. That doesn't mean he was perfect, and I'm not here to defend the excesses of the East India Company, far from that. But we as a society, why is it that we as a society are no longer mature enough to understand that no person, no hero of ours is as pure as the driven snow, And if we erase people from the past, we are also erasing huge sections of our past too. You know, this is a war on our history. When we walk through the streets, when we walk through the public square, we see monuments to the people who made Britain what it is today. Some of that, most of that will be good. Some of that will be bad, but most of it will be good and sometimes also controversial at the same time. And it's just, you know, this PC desire to delete our past, you know, it's immature, it's undemocratic, and it's Philistine. And why stop at Clive's statue? You know, where did it end?
That's the point. Why stop at that statue?
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Time to look through the newspapers now with Andy and Emma. And you come up with some fascinating, slightly worrying stories, Emma. In the Sunday Mirror, for instance, COVID cases.
Well, we don't talk much about COVID anymore. Does anyone test anymore?
I don't, but I know some people do, and I keep asking, well, how on earth are you getting tests? If I have a cold, I just...
Well, there's a new strain. The current strain is called Stratus. Well, the alarming stuff first. COVID cases are up 20% in a week. We're now at our highest COVID case rate levels since 2024. We've got this new strain called Stratus, and the unique symptom is a raspy, croaky voice. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh. Yes.
But yeah, we don't... COVID was such a big thing.
I know.
The pandemic was such a big thing, and it's completely dropped off the radar. If people are poorly, they're just poorly.
The only people that wear those face masks now I see on TV are rioters and shoplifters, and it shows how it's completely slipped off the radar.
I've seen a few more. I've just actually, you saying that, in the last week, I've seen a lot more people out and about on the streets wearing masks. Maybe it's linked to...
I don't know. Don't you still feel a little shiver of when you are on a bus or a train or a plane?
You're very close to
somebody starts coughing very near you.
Yeah.
You suddenly think it's not acceptable. It's still not acceptable.
I think you're certainly more aware of it, and I think it's more acceptable to not infect other people by staying at home or not taking public transport, as perhaps you would battle on through back in the day before COVID. But I just think, in terms of testing for coronavirus specifically, there are so many viruses that kind of go around nowadays. Isn't it just an expensive...
But also, would the test be viable for this new strain?
I don't know. I think it does pick up the Stratus, which replaced Omicron.
But what would you do about it anyway, then?
Well, what would you do? But I think Cameron's right. It's much more acceptable to say, I can't come to your party, I think I've probably got COVID or something, and it's not. You know, that's totally normal. I don't know. I knew people that were testing every day, every week, constantly. I did 2 tests in the whole thing. People got really hooked on doing their tests.
Well, putting these numbers into context, 1,500 people tested positive last week. I mean, 1,500 people, it was like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands a day. 1,500 people with this new strain, that's up 20. That's the highest figure
Hold on.
since
Loads aren't testing. Loads are not testing.
Quite. But I mean, equally, 1,500 people testing positive.
I wonder why they're testing.
But you are right, Andy, about the masks and people... dodgy people, for want of a better phrase, wearing these medical masks we all had to wear during the coronavirus pandemic. But now, of course, they've got them. They're hiding their faces. And in fact, what I've started to see is big shopping centres like Westfield in London has a sign on the door saying you are banned from coming in if you are wearing a mask that is covering your face, because it could potentially mean you are doing something you shouldn't be.
Indeed. And there are people who obviously have immunity issues, who are infirm, etc. I understand that. But as you say, very big thing on the high street. Shoplifters, face masks.
We've gone from you can't come in if you're not wearing a mask to you can't come in if you're wearing a mask.
Yeah, that is very strange, isn't it?
But just to say, that number of 1,500, I mean, that's the UK surveillance agency. They do like a sample to get a sense of numbers going up. But there are many thousands who have their croaky, raspy voice and aren't testing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there are lots of quirky, crafty voices around that are nothing to do with COVID, aren't they? People get it. OK, let's move on to something that really gets steam coming out of my ears, and that's this enormous Chinese super embassy being planned in London.
Yeah, so the Chinese government paid $260 million in 2018 to buy Royal Mint Court, which is a big building in East London. They then said they wanted to redevelop it. There's been a huge push and pull about how big it's going to be and, more importantly, what is going on in there. They've submitted plans a few times. Most recent ones have been knocked back, and it's got 2 secret buildings within the building. And, of course, that's a worry for anybody. You know, if any nation had built a property here, but China especially. I mean, Chinese hackers managed to get the service records of 270,000 military personnel recently. They stole the aircraft design of one of our military aircrafts. The US government says China steals around $600 billion a year of intellectual property from private companies. A business will launch and China will steal it and then use it for Chinese government enterprise. That's before you even get to the human rights abuses, the hacking, the spies, all of this sort of stuff. And I know China does a lot of good things as well. But, look, if we're going to have a situation where, on one hand, we're worried about the threat of China, we're worried about the threat of China in Taiwan, we're worried about China's human rights abuses, worried about slave labour camps producing China products, worried about China's invasion of our networks. And simultaneously, it's also, you just built a massive embassy and, you've got a few grey buildings in there. We've got no idea what's going on in there. It's preposterous. We're already in a position where there are 10,000 buildings alone just in the borough of Westminster, and we don't know who owns them. And several thousand of those are also, that includes several hundred, on top of that, there are several thousand buildings owned by Chinese officials, etc. And it's a bit like, well, we've got this security to get into Britain if you come in through the airport, but you can float in on a dinghy, you can buy a boat, you can buy a property here with whatever you want. You've got a massive embassy and we won't even ask a question about it. It's absolutely absurd. Well, it's ridiculous.
What's the solution here? Because ministers have delayed the planning decision. Are they just going to keep delaying the planning decision, or at some point are they going to have to say to the Chinese, sorry, you can't build the massive super embassy here? Or are they going to actually just give it?
They need to decide quite soon. This is quite near me, and I'm worried about these buildings inside the buildings, these secret buildings in the Chinese embassy.
In London, you do walk past magnificent buildings that appear to have nothing happening inside them at all.
There must be a lot of buildings where we don't know what's going on inside.
And what do they need to... And the other thing to me is there's loads of huge buildings, there's loads of embassy buildings for all kind of nations around the world, and I know they're an absolutely essential part of the diplomatic process. What does China need to build this new building? Why is the need for them to have this enormous embassy?
If we ever gave them planning permission to go ahead, who builds it?
Well, quite.
Actually, physically, who builds it?
I wonder at the American embassy down at Nine Elms, how much do we know about what goes on inside the American embassy?
Well, we don't, but we presume that America is a friendly ally.
Yeah, no, I just wonder how much secret stuff, how many secret plans and departments and rooms and buildings within buildings.
Indeed. And there's a lot. I've been in there, and there's a huge amount of security to get in. Yeah. But we have this huge position where we make policies that are useful to us in this next 5 minutes and that are disastrous to us long term. The same with the EU and Putin. I mean, just a few years ago, David Cameron was having a beer with the Chinese premier, and it was all like, we need George Osborne, we have to get China on board, get China baked into all our networks. China's going to build all this technology for us. And now it's like, oh my word, we've let China own our water. I think they own our water companies now. They do all of our internet technology and all this sort of stuff. And now it's China are spying on us. China are stealing our intellectual property. China have got these human rights abuses. Oh, actually, by the way, we're still going to let China build this massive...
I know, I find it absolutely astonishing.
No thought about today,
But on that lovely thought, yes, we'll say have a wonderful weekend, what's left of it. Thanks very much, Emma and Andy. Let's find out about our bank holiday weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest forecast from the Met Office. And today, another day dominated by high pressure. There should be more in the way of bright or sunny spells, so it will feel a little warmer compared to yesterday. So a largely dry start across England and Wales this morning. Some bright and sunny spells, only mist and fog patches soon clearing. There is a weak weather front across western parts of Scotland, giving some outbreaks of rain. Through the day, this slowly pushes north and eastwards. And then for most of the dry day, plenty of bright or sunny spells. The cloud will bubble up from time to time, but it should feel warmer with a bit more sunshine around. Temperatures generally 22 to 25 degrees. So a warm end to the day on Sunday, some sunny spells. This week, weather front continuing to give some outbreaks of rain across northern parts of Scotland, but it should be largely light and patchy as we go through the evening time. Temperatures still reaching the high teens to low 20s ahead of the sun setting, and some sunny spells to end the day across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland into northern England as well. Plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, so a fine end to the day with generally light winds across the board. As we move through the evening and overnight, it generally stays dry, plenty of clear skies. Winds will fall light. We could see some mist and fog patches forming in a few spots. And the weather front just starting to clear Orkney and Shetland as we move through the early hours. Some patchy light rain here. And temperatures widely in double figures once again, 12 to 15 degrees. So fairly mild night to come. And then Monday, bank holiday for much of the UK. Plenty of sunshine for the day ahead. The winds picking up across the west ahead of weather front slowly moving in, so the cloud could thicken across some western parts later on in the day. But plenty of sunny spells across much of the UK and temperatures rising as a result. 27, 28 Celsius possible quite widely, even across northern parts of the UK into the mid-20s, so feeling very warm.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Chris, let's have a look at, I think, one of my favourite stories this morning. And this is the daughter of the inventor of the Fredo chocolate bar, which we have in front of us. Now, I remember at school these were 10p. 10p, 20p?
You remember them at school?
Yeah.
So we had a discussion in the green room, and I was absolutely hammered.
Are they the same size as the words?
I think they've got smaller, you know.
Of course they have.
Or maybe I've got bigger.
Well,
No,
we have all got
that's-
bigger. You haven't actually got any bigger. You're still tiny. But yeah, they have got smaller. Shrinkflation is a thing.
Is a thing. Yeah.
Depending on where you buy them, you can actually spend £1 for one of these, and they are tiny, weeny, as you can see there. I haven't bitten mine off yet.
18 grams, they're tiny.
The more shocking part of this entire story, Chris Akabusi, is that Chris is the only man on Earth.
I've never heard of a Fredo.
What?
I've never heard of a Fredo. I cannot believe. And look, there's no way. And then Dawn was trying to tell me that they were around when I was a kid. Absolutely.
You haven't lived. Eat it now. Open.
There's no way that a Fredo. I don't. You know. And then I was thinking. He says here that Fredo is used as a common yardstick to track inflation. No, it used to be the Mars bar.
No, it's the Fredo.
It used to be the Mars bar.
The humble Fredo.
This is. So what's so special about the Fredo?
Just eat it. It's amazing. Cheers.
Oh, cheers with you.
Bing.
Well, Chris, tracking the financial index yesterday,
yes,
I decided to have a Mars bar, and I was able to have 2 of them because they were so small.
Yeah.
So tiny,
absolutely,
and thin.
Absolutely.
A disgrace of what a Mars bar used to be, or an Aztec bar, or a Topic bar, or
there you go.
Anything, yeah.
But you don't remember Fredo.
No, so
we are the same
wagon wheels,
generation.
curly whirly.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister has said he's going to try and curb the power of judges in asylum cases.
The Times is reporting Sir Keir Starmer will overhaul the appeal system in an effort to deport failed asylum seekers faster.
And that move would also aim to prevent the hotel crisis from derailing the government's strategy.
But as protests gather steam nationwide, is it all too little, too late?
Meanwhile, a stark warning for Rachel Reeves. Economists are saying that Britain is heading towards a 70s-style debt crisis unless she changes her thinking.
Targeting criminals, offenders will be barred from pubs, concerts and sports matches under new sentencing powers unveiled by the government today.
In the States, President Trump's immigrant crackdown. The US immigrant population has plunged by over 1 million people. That comes amid protests against intensified law enforcement action.
And continued support for Ukraine. The Defence Secretary John Healey says British military experts will carry on training Ukrainian soldiers on UK soil until at least the end of next year.
There was a lot of cloud across the UK yesterday. High pressure still in charge today. Will there be some more sunshine? Find out all the weather details coming up soon.
Well, on this Bank Holiday Sunday, it's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Of course, Ukraine Independence Day today, and we were talking a bit earlier about the fact that President Zelensky has had a really nice letter from the King.
Yes.
Sort of congratulating him on Independence Day, and just the very letter pledges more support, doesn't it? British support. We've also had news that Mark Carney, who is, of course, now the Canadian Prime Minister, has arrived in Kyiv today. He's obviously meeting President Zelensky. And it's being a very special day.
And this is a really interesting one. President Zelensky has tweeted a letter from President Xi Jinping of China, who, of course, is arguably an ally of President Putin. Russia, invaded Ukraine. Now, in Xi's letter, he doesn't mention the war, but he does talk about bilateral relations between Ukraine and China, talking to President Zelensky as Ukraine rightly is, a sovereign nation. So I wonder how that is going down with President Putin.
It's very interesting that he has sent that letter. Whatever words he's using, it is Ukrainian Independence Day, and the war is about Ukrainians' independence. And he has chosen to send that letter of, I suppose you could call it support.
Yes.
How's that going to go down in the Kremlin, I wonder?
Yes, and we will be speaking to Tobias Ellwood a little bit later, the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, to talk about this, but also Ukrainian Independence Day. We've got a number of things taking place in London today. I think Ukrainian flags are being flown across Downing Street and Whitehall. So we'll be asking him about that letter to Xi Jinping and the King, of course, a little bit later on.
So it being August, and I've said this before, journalists used to call it silly season because nothing ever happened. It couldn't be busier at the moment, could it? The Prime Minister himself saying that he's going to overhaul the asylum appeal system, limiting judges' authority to address this mounting backlog. It's reported in the Times today that it's all happening because of the escalating protests, of course, over migrant hotels right across the country.
And the Home Office argues it will enable the government even to move asylum seekers out of hotels faster. But could it all be too little, too late?
Well, joining us now in the studio, GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Is it all a bit too knee-jerk, too little, too late?
Well, I think there are lots of people who are going to feel like that. It seems as though, the government denies this, that the protests have resulted in the government making this big, bold, radical decision. Ministers say that these plans have been in the works for a long time now, but it does feel like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Now, the plan, as it stands, ministers are going to unveil this new primary legislation in the coming weeks, would essentially massively speed up the pretty labyrinthine asylum-seeking seeking process, the appeal system, in short. So what happens at the moment is if an asylum seeker's claim is rejected at the first hurdle, they are able to apply for appeal under a first-tier tribunal, and they get to go to a judge and they get to put their case forward, and that judge might refer their case on to a higher-tier tribunal, and then they might be able to get their leave to appeal. Now, what Yvette Cooper and the Home Office worry about is that some of those first-tier tribunal judges are over-interpreting EU law, specifically Article 8, which is the right to family life. So all sorts of people are able to get their appeal accepted because they have family in the UK. Now, what the government wants to do is get rid of that entire first-tier tribunal altogether. So instead of people who have had their asylum claims rejected being able to go to lawyers, being able to go to court, their cases would be heard in the first instance by adjudicators rather than professional human rights lawyers. Now, this would speed things up a lot. There aren't enough human rights lawyers, essentially, to cover the amount of cases that are coming through. There are, as we know, an enormous number, 32,000 people coming here on small boats. So there's a real bottleneck at that first layer, if you like, of asylum hearings. If you got rid of that altogether, as the government is planning to do, you would get those cases heard much faster. At the moment, on average, it takes about a year for an asylum seeker's appeal claim to be heard, for a final decision to be made, and sometimes it takes many more years. So that
during that time, they're building family.
They're building family ties in the UK.
They didn't have family connections before. They're certainly building them in that time.
Well, exactly, and of course, in all that time, they are being held in these hotels, and that is, the government thinks that if you get rid of that first layer, first appeal layer, then you will get rid of the hotel problem. But as you say, is it sort of too little too late? There are already so many people in these hotels that perhaps if you were starting from ground zero, this might work. But as it is, you've got thousands, tens of thousands of people to shift before you even sort of break even. Then the other issue, of course, is that there are going to be lots of left-wing MPs who really don't like this idea at all, who believe that asylum seekers have a human right to have their cases heard by lawyers in the first instance. So they could put up a lot of resistance to this primary legislation when it gets into Parliament, and it could easily fail at that.
And meanwhile, just briefly, we've got more anti-migrant protests taking place today in hotels across the country.
Yeah, so there are 26 protests planned for today and across the weekend. Lots of them starting at about midday, 1 o'clock today, all over the country. London, Solihull, Birmingham. We've got more in Epping today as well. So I'm sure we'll be talking about this a little bit later on. It doesn't feel as though this problem is going away. This is a sort of classic weekend for protests. As you say, it's sort of silly season. People are sort of thinking about going back to work, thinking about their children going back to school. They're getting pretty upset, understandably.
And the weather makes a difference.
The weather makes a difference too. It sounds a bit shallow, but you know, it's a nice sunny day. It's an easier time to protest, and I think we will see quite a lot of community tension today. And of course, it's Bank Holiday Monday tomorrow as well. So this isn't wrapping up anytime soon.
Oh, dear. Well, we will be reporting on it for you. Thank you so much, Olivia. Now, usually at this time, we look forward to Camilla Tominey's show, but she ain't here at the moment. She's enjoying some sunshine somewhere, I think. Alex Armstrong is taking over, so let's see what he's up to. Hello there. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Cameron. Lovely to see you.
I can only imagine you've got a pretty busy programme. Tell us what's on.
We do indeed. Well, of course, we'll have the usual political analysis from both Labour and the Conservatives. We've got two MPs joining us today. We've got to start with this overhaul of the asylum appeals process, haven't we? Keir Starmer has signalled that he's going to at least try and speed up the appeals process in order to cut down on the asylum hotels. Now, I'm going to be digging into the consequences of that because there's a lot more to this. It sounds great on the face of it, but what does that mean for you all at home? We're also going to be talking about, of course, that big story today, whether Angela Rayner's third home is aspirational for the country or whether or not it's hypocrisy. Of course, Labour is putting, at least signalling 100% tax on second homes in some councils. So we'll be talking about whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, and lots of commentary on that. Of course, Reform UK have also published their mass deportations plan. I'm going to be asking where Labour and the Tories stand on this, because they seem a little bit behind on the trends, don't they? Also in the papers today, are we heading to an IMF bailout? Now, Rachel Reeves is in a bit of a spot here. She's in £50 billion black hole. We've got 70 billion of spending, a big spending spree. So we're going to be asking, really, are we headed to an economic calamity in the next few months? And what can the Chancellor really do before the next budget? We're looking at potential tax rises, stealth tax rises. So much to dig into, Anne and Cameron. I hope everyone can join me. It's going to be a stellar show.
It will be interesting. I mean, I was just pointing everybody down now towards the... it's in the... I think it's in the Times as well, is it? About Angela Rayner having 3 houses. She's just bought her 3rd. It's not actually quite true, is it? One of them is a grace and favour house that comes with the job. One of them's a constituency house, and the one she's just bought is near Brighton. What do you think? Do you think this is hypocrisy for her in her job to be sort of splashing it about that she's got 3 houses?
Well, I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because Labour, of course, have put out this, at least allowed councils to charge this 100% council tax for second homeowners. So I think at a time when millions of people are struggling to pay for their rent and many young people can't get on the housing ladder, it doesn't look good for the Secretary of State in charge of building more homes and helping more people get homes, for her also to now have a 3rd place that she can live. I do appreciate one of them is a grace and favour property, but it's a very privileged position, and I think many will be asking, you know, one of Labour's old phrases was for the many, not the few, but she's now in the top 10% of people who do have a second home. So is Labour now for the few, not the many?
Well, it's not great optics, is it? Alex, thank you very much. We'll join you a little later on. Looking forward to your show. I
suppose it's a bit like 2 Jags Prescott, isn't it? You know, they're socialist politicians, but living the high life.
Indeed.
I don't know whether you think that's true.
Defence Secretary John Healey has said that British military experts will continue to train Ukrainian soldiers until at least the end of 2026.
This has come, of course, on Ukrainian Independence Day, where the UK has pledged to ramp up their support for Ukrainian forces.
Well, joining us now is the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, good morning to you. Of course, it's a reminder, isn't it, that this war is still going on in Ukraine, and President Zelensky this morning has received a lot of support from heads of states from around the world, including our own king.
Yes, I mean, you sum it up very well indeed. It's still going on. We had these gargantuan events in the last couple of weeks, that Alaska summit, and then the Washington, D.C. meeting, where European heads and the American president, Donald Trump, gathered around the table, everybody expecting, you know, the bar was raised very high, that potentially a deal could be struck and we could finally see the end of this war. But now the dust has settled. We actually see that Putin is in an even stronger position. He's not being stood up to. Donald Trump still believes that he can be trusted, and the war continues on. The deal that's been posed on the table isn't one that Zelensky himself or indeed Europe can accept, handing over much of the Donbass to Russia. This is part of Ukraine, which is actually currently in Zelensky's hands, currently is part of Ukraine itself, not Russian-held territory. So I'm pleased to see that with all things said and done, Britain will still stand by Ukraine, as we must, because the geopolitical consequences of signing a deal right now, much as it would then allow us to then go away for the short period of time and saying finally the war is over, will simply mean there'll be more war further down the road. As we saw, I'm afraid, lots of comparisons made with this back in 1938.
It is, of course, as we said, Ukrainian Independence Day, and of course that war is all about Ukrainians' independence. Do you find it really fascinating that the Chinese president has sent President Zelensky a message of, well, I don't know whether you'd call it support, but he sent him a message from China on Ukrainian Independence Day. What does that say?
Well, it just shows you how wily and clever China are playing here. Of course, they've got their own interests with Taiwan. They're watching what the West does and how we react and where this all goes with Ukraine. But to put this message out in this way is very, very clever indeed. It's almost to suggest Ukraine were actually on your side. But look at the detail. They've been supporting Russia from the very, very start, allowing dual-purpose equipment and so forth to pass through other of the stans into Russia to help keep the war going and support President Xi's closest ally, President Putin, indeed. It shows you where our world is going and why we need to stand up to the bully, because if we don't, it doesn't stop there. And perhaps that's the biggest challenge that we face, is that we need America and Europe on the same page. And as long as America doesn't see Putin as a threat, you know, Putin wants to see NATO push back. He wants to see Europe divided. Putin wants to see a wedge driven between Europe and America. And at the moment, he's succeeding in doing that. That's the reason why this war will probably continue for some time.
How likely is it that if a deal is struck, we will see British troops on the ground in Ukraine in this so-called peacekeeper role?
So I understand why we use that phrase, boots on the ground. It's a very simplistic phrase. Usually when there is a ceasefire and there are two protagonists that are then pulled apart, a third party or parties, usually with UN mandate, goes in. I've been part of this during my military career many times. And Britain would absolutely participate in that, a UN-mandated peacekeeping force to monitor the border, to make sure you keep the two sides apart. That could involve boots on the ground. It's more likely to involve a no-fly zone and other things. But also on top of that, we'll be training directly to support Ukraine in building up their defense competence so they can actually look after themselves were Russia to attack. And that's a separate support mechanism process compared with actually doing anything to do with monitoring a ceasefire. But as you allude to in your question, a lot of details there which were not covered in the big conferences and the summits that took place a couple of weeks ago. And now everything has been pushed down to another summit, this trilateral summit between Russia, America and Ukraine. And we don't even have a date for that yet.
No, we don't even know if it's really going to happen. Are we living then in a more dangerous time for Ukraine on this 34th Independence Day since the summit?
You absolutely pose such an important question that I think Britain and indeed Europe is in denial. You know, we are in more dangerous times. We've had an era of relative peace since the end of the Cold War, and we've now moved into a chapter of huge growing instability because nobody's actually checking anybody breaking the rules anymore. And there is an alternative vision as to where our world should go. Russia, China, and so many other countries pursuing an alternative direction of travel away from our traditional rules-based order. Our world is splintering. And until we wake up to that, then what goes on in Ukraine, which is a microcosm of what's happening, means that we will continue to be in denial and not be able to challenge this and perhaps do a course correction and prevent greater conflict.
Well, look, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. I tell you what, you look a bit like a holiday advert this morning. You've got this beautiful blue sky behind you and the sun is obviously shining. Where are you? What are you up to?
I'm at a conference in Greece at the moment, but enjoying the weather here. This is the only quiet spot I could find, so enjoying the sunshine out here as well.
Do enjoy the sunshine. Yes, it looks fabulous. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Spice. And yes, perhaps for those of you watching on TV, apologies. I think we may have had the wrong live strap.
I think we said it was Bournemouth.
We said it was Bournemouth.
I'm sure the sky...
I thought, gosh, it looks so lovely in Bournemouth.
Well, it is lovely
no, he's in
Bournemouth.
Greece. That makes more sense.
OK.
Anyway, still to come, we will be joined by care home residents who have taken up rowing to support the 3 Scottish brothers who have been rowing the Pacific Ocean. It's an incredible story. We'll be giving you that next.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
9:21 already, time for the Great British Giveaway. Here's how to take part.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Now, here is a lovely story for you. Care home residents have taken up rowing sessions to support the 3 Scottish brothers who are racing across the world for charity.
But here is the twist, because these paddling pensioners in Edinburgh are at the care home that Ewan, Jamie and Lachlan McLean used to visit their grandmother at.
Yes, that's the link, you see. Joining us now are the rowers at Chamberlain Care Home, Sheila Bertels and Liliana Barner, and I think we can see them there. Yes, hello and a very good morning. Right, I'm going to start with Sheila. You used to know the boy's father. You were a whiskey expert, I think, weren't you?
Yes, I spent a lot of my life working in a Scotch whisky research. I was really a scientist, and it was when a whisky started to have problems with some of the things that they realised they needed science. And I got joined in there, and I had a very fascinating life.
Well, yes, and you've got a very trustworthy job now. As the boys are in the Pacific, rowing like crazy, presumably, you are the custodian of the voyage's log. I think we've seen you there with the map. You're obviously logging it as they go.
Oh, yes, absolutely, because I knew these boys when they were at school a long time ago, and I just can't believe the wonderful things that they've been doing. And as I say, for following it on the maps and the subtle changes in Australia and things, it's just too wonderful, and I'm just so glad to be able to see them soon.
So Sheila, where are they now? Because I believe they were going to be going to Sydney, weren't they? But the bad weather means they've had to divert their course.
That's right, yes.
Oh, there they are.
There they are.
How does that make you feel? Both of you knew them when they were younger and they came to visit their grandmother. How does that make you feel, seeing them there in the middle of the Pacific?
How does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Totally amazed, and that I'm in another world.
You're there with them, aren't you? Liliana, you remember them coming into the home, didn't you?
Yes, I do. As Sheila said, it was a long time ago. They were quite small boys. And, you know, the whole family was visiting. The boys were in the home almost, you know, every day, visiting their grandmother. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to see them today doing this extraordinary thing and inspiring so many people on so many levels.
And they are hoping to raise, I think it's £1 million, isn't it? It's for clean water projects in Madagascar. And you at the care home on Thursday, when they're going to be arriving in Cairns in Australia, have got some activities lined up at the care home, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we started already the fundraising, efforts. But Thursday we plan to have a bake sale, followed by a concert. So the whole day will be dedicated to the fundraising event to support the boys in their extraordinary efforts and extraordinary challenge.
It is. It looks as though you're doing the challenge along with them. In fact, I think you've said that your heart is with them at the moment as they go across the Pacific.
Very much so, very much so. So such an exciting moment for us and for the boys. It's just hard to say in words, you know, what it's like. But we've been following them since day one, and the residents kept, being updated weekly and sometimes, during, daily, depending on they were kept up to date with the weather, with their progress, with all the messages that we received.
It's lovely to have something to still get excited about, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be watching and waiting for news of their safe return as well. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful bank holiday weekend.
Next is Thank you. Next, the Camilla Tominey Show with Alex Armstrong.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin